Chapter 3200. Everyone stared at this scene in shock, wondering if Qianghao had gained the ability to become an impregnable fortress after mutating. Arbor's gaze focused, and the startled swan dagger drilled out from behind her again. A blinding white light suddenly exploded from the dagger, and it instantly pierced toward Qianghao's eye like a flash of lightning. This dagger pierced through Qianghao's left eye and directly penetrated his forehead. Qianghao let out an inhuman roar. His single eye carried a trace of blood-red light as he glowered viciously at Arbor in front of him. At the same time, his entire body swelled up again like a ball. "Mommy, he's going to self-detonate." This Qianghao was probably so angry that he lost his mind and wanted to perish together with the little crown princess. But don't freaking self-detonate here. They were in the same mystic realm. Not only would self-detonation cause great harm to the mystic realm, but it would also implicate innocent bystanders like them. Qin Baojia and the others were livid, deeply enraged by the little stoic. This stoic disregarded the consequences and fought with Qianghao, provoking this lunatic. If it weren't for her belligerence, this wouldn't have happened. Roar! Qianghao abruptly broke free from the wooden cage and swooped down from the sky, shooting toward Arbor like a giant cannonball. Layers of cold air instantly floated between Arbor's hands. At the same time that Qianghao swooped down, the outer layer of her body was wrapped in a layer of sharp ice spikes. This little fellow seemed to have turned into a hedgehog in an instant, spreading out her sharp horns. Qianghao swooped down with his palm and just happened to press down on the sharp ice spikes defense that she suddenly erected. Thus, this fellow was like a punctured balloon, leaking air from her palm and spreading to her entire body. An incomplete mutated monster's body puffed out white smoke, completely unable to stop the rapid dissipation of its power. Since its power was already completely dissipating, it naturally couldn't gather and solidify it again to continue self-detonating. If you can become a genius just by taking medicine, then what's the use of having geniuses in this world? Arbor let out a furious roar and kicked Qianghao in the chest, sending him flying backward. Using one's own strength to fight against others, that is the ultimate strength. Arbor suddenly dashed over. Her jade-like hand covered with the Vajra talisman was like a cold, killing weapon, ruthlessly hammering Qianghao's chin. Puff! Qianghao's deformed head tilted backward as a stream of blood flowed out of its mouth. "It's my own power." Bang! This punch landed heavily on Qianghao's other eye. At this moment, Qianghao's entire body had mutated, and he could not feel any pain at all. However, he had already lost one of his eyes. Now that Arbor had punched his other eye, he subconsciously closed his eyes and saw nothing but darkness. I can pursue the great Tao of the peak of martial arts, but not to become a monster and pursue it. Arbor kicked Qianghao's lower body and stepped him under her feet. She held the startled swan dagger and aimed it at Qianghao's head. She said coldly, "Those who have no bottom line will eventually suffer the consequences of their own actions." "You're too ugly," Arbor said coldly. "Go to hell." Tch. A trace of indignation spread across Qianghao's twisted face. He felt thick blood seeping out of his neck. Chapter 3201. He truly didn't expect that, even after transforming into such a powerful person, he still couldn't escape being brutally killed by the little stoic. He still wasn't strong enough. Qianghao's contorted face contorted. Although blood kept bubbling from his neck, he still persisted and stammered, "You don't get carried away. Long live the heavenly fortune. Those who obey the heavens prosper, those who defy the heavens." Xiao Mu took out a normal spiritual weapon hammer from her inner world and smashed this fellow's head to pieces with a single blow. "Everyone, humph, do you think you can represent heavenly law? If heavenly law is unfair, we mortals can also resist, let alone a mere heavenly fortune." Arbor snorted and then turned his head. A sharp glint flashed in his eyes as he asked sternly, "Who else wants to challenge me? Come." Absolute silence. A deathly silence. No one, including Qin Baojia, who was accustomed to courting death, dared to utter another word. Arbor glanced at them coldly before turning to look at the center of the mystic realm, at the ball of snow-white light suspended high in the sky. No matter which direction one looked at it from, the object wrapped in this ball of snow-white light couldn't be seen clearly. However, Arbor was well aware that this was the Sun-Moon Twin Wheels. As long as this seal was severed, the Sun-Moon Twin Wheels would regain its freedom. At that time, it would be free no matter where it went. According to Mo's words, the Sun-Moon Twin Wheels were originally her natal weapon and would only follow her in her lifetime. However, Mo had already died and vanished, completely concealed in the vast sky. Since the Sun-Moon Twin Wheels were a sacred weapon born of heaven and earth, they naturally had an artifact spirit. How would they choose? Arbor reached out his small hand and stroked the halo from a distance. He could actually sense the anxiety and unease within it. Since they were Mo's natal weapon, the Sun-Moon Twin Wheels could naturally sense Mo's death. Anxiety was normal. Arbor clenched his hand into a fist and threw 2 punches at the light, sealing the Sun-Moon Twin Wheels. In an instant, the entire ball of light burst open, and a buzzing sound jumped out from within. Everyone stared at the scene in front of them with their mouths agape. They almost couldn't believe it. Everyone, including Holy Sun Mi Yin, stood there dumbstruck, scanning the little stoic from head to toe as if they were looking at a ghost. They had already found this place a long time ago, and it wasn't as if no one had tried to cut off that layer of light and snatch the sun and moon wheels before anyone else. However, not a single person was able to succeed. Everyone was blocked by this layer of sealing light, unable to break this ancient seal. And at that time, Holy Sun Mi Yin had already told them that this seal had been placed a very long time ago. Perhaps the powerful figure who had placed this seal should be the previous owner of this secret realm, who was at least 1,000 years old. It was normal that they couldn't break the seal. Holy Sun Mi Yin also proposed to gather everyone's strength to break the seal. But after breaking the seal, this pair of Sun-Moon Twin Wheels could only have one owner. That was why everyone thought of a plan. They would first compete to determine who was the owner of the Sun-Moon Twin Wheels, and then gather everyone's strength to break the seal. However, at this time, everything had overturned their understanding. They didn't expect the little stoic to break this seal without expending any effort at all. Chapter 3202. How could everyone endure this? Holy Sun Mi Yin, in particular, still had a dumbfounded expression on his face, and he repeatedly glanced at the little stoic several times. Previously, he was the one who told everyone that this sealed light source was placed by an almighty person, and they simply couldn't break it with their individual strength. His words were still ringing in their ears, but now they were slapped in the face. This sour feeling the little stoic couldn't have been possessed by a demon, right? Everyone thought this at the same time. At this time, the Sun-Moon Twin Wheels had already flown out, so fast that they couldn't see them clearly. The little stoic saw this pair of weapons fly around her in a circle, emitting a buzzing sound. The little fellow gave a rare smile to the pair of weapons and nodded slightly. Subsequently, everyone saw the Sun-Moon Twin Wheels glide across the sky with a swish like shooting stars chasing after the moon, instantly disappearing from the mystic realm. Where are the twin wheels? Chun Baojia couldn't resist shrieking. She was simply about to go mad from anger. How many trials and tribulations had they gone through to reach this place? Not only were they constantly hunted down by mercenary groups, but they were also attacked by zombies time and time again. Not only did they not reap any benefits, but they were also tricked into such a wretched state. She truly didn't know what the objective of this trip was. Not only was Chun Baojia so livid, but even Gu Yishuan, Xiangchang Royal Princess, and the others were so angry that their hearts, livers, spleens, and lungs ached. They didn't expect that the Sun-Moon Twin Wheels would fly far away with a whoosh before they could even clearly see what they looked like. Several mercenaries rapidly chased after the Sun-Moon Twin Wheels. Halfway through the chase, his body seemed to have been blown apart by something. His whole body fell to the ground with a loud bang. Everyone's body stiffened. They had originally wanted to chase after the Sun-Moon Twin Wheels, but at this time, they all swallowed their saliva and stopped with a look of fear on their faces. Arbor and the others clearly saw that the people chasing after them were shot by the white light emitted by the Sun-Moon twin wheels. This white light was naturally the divine weapon's coercion. Normal people couldn't even withstand a single finger of the Sun-Moon twin wheels. Chasing after them was simply a dead end. Xiaomu swept them a cold glance before turning around to walk to her husband's side and tugging at his sleeve. Mo Yin lowered his head and touched her little face with a smile. "Okay, your husband will protect you. Hurry up and refine it." As she said this, her fingers rapidly moved as she pulled Duan Yu to lay down several layers of defensive boundaries around Arbor. Under everyone's gaze, Arbor sat down cross-legged and slowly closed his eyes. He focused his mind and calmed his qi, allowing his heart to move freely. A wisp of white light spiraled around her body. Immediately after, everyone discovered that all this spiritual energy in the mystic realm was madly surging towards the little stoic. Everyone cursed in their hearts and hastily dashed over, wanting to snatch the spiritual aura around the little stoic. Such dense spiritual energy was almost visible to the naked eye. If they could snatch a few points from under the stoic face's hands, then they could be considered to have benefited greatly. They all had the same thought. So a large group of people ran to Arbor's side and sat down cross-legged without a care, planning to snatch some spiritual energy from Arbor to absorb. However, how could they know that Arbor wasn't simply absorbing the spiritual energy in the mystic realm? She was refining the entire Sun-Moon mystic realm. Refining. She had already refined the spirit domain more than once. So this time, it could be said that she did it with extreme ease. Chapter 3203. Everyone scrambled to absorb the spiritual energy around Arbor, but it wasn't long before they discovered a frightening fact. They simply couldn't snatch even a sliver of spiritual energy. What was going on? Chun Baojia and the others opened their eyes in alarm and astonishment, wanting to clearly see Arbor's figure. However, the little stoic was currently completely enveloped by streams of dense spiritual energy that resembled water dragons sucking in water. She was also protected by several defensive boundaries, so it was simply very difficult to clearly see this stoic face's situation. Gu Yishuan also tried his best to clearly see the little stoic's current situation, but unfortunately, it was very difficult. The little crown princess didn't know what other people were thinking. Right now, she was trying her best to absorb the spiritual energy that was endlessly pouring in from all directions. So how could she have the leisure to pay attention to other people? When she looked inside herself, she saw that all the spiritual energy was pouring into her Dantian star domain. At this moment, the sapling's leaves were very dense, and it had already gradually transformed from that pitifully bare tree into a flourishing one. Arbor was very happy to see this. She thought of the sapling that had accompanied her for so many years in the void, and then thought of its pitiful appearance as a half-withered log. Looking at its appearance now, she couldn't help but be overjoyed. It's already continuously developing in a better and better direction, Arbor thought to herself. It'll get better in the future. This Sun-Moon mystery realm was bigger than Paradise Planet. It could even be said that it was almost twice as big as Paradise Planet. In all these days, Arbor actually hadn't traveled to every corner of the Sun-Moon mystery realm. At this moment, it would take at least 4 hours to completely refine it. As large amounts of spiritual energy poured into her star domain Dantian, the sapling's body swayed slightly as it bathed in the light of spiritual energy. The entire Sun-Moon mystery realm was quietly crumbling bit by bit amidst the tremors. At first, Gu Yishuan and the others naturally didn't know the situation. But gradually, as the ground started to crack, everything inside the mystery realm seemed to instantly become blurry. Everyone clearly realized that the situation was developing in a strange direction. The mystic realm was about to collapse. Everyone was alarmed. Led by Gu Yishuan, everyone covered themselves with a layer of defensive cover. They communicated with each other in panic. What's going on? Is the mystic realm about to collapse? There are still at least 20 days before we leave, right? Why is this mystic realm collapsing all of a sudden? No one could link the collapse of this mystic realm to Xiao Mu at all. As far as they were concerned, Arbor was indeed powerful, but refining the entire arcane realm? What kind of joke was this? This joke was not funny at all. Arbor didn't know what everyone was thinking, and she didn't care what they thought of her. While she was silently absorbing and refining the energy, she suddenly opened her eyes. In the meantime, the entire secret realm collapsed in an instant. Everyone was thrown into chaos, screaming as they were sent flying. Xiao Mu stretched out her hand and put away the refined round bead into her palm without attracting anyone's attention. At this moment, there was still a swirling spiritual energy floating around her body. Outside her body, there were 3 layers of defensive barriers. No one could see her movements clearly. Sun Moon Mystery Realm, refining success. Xiao Mu's lips curled into a faint smile playfully. Chapter 3204. After the spiritual energy was injected into her star domain, she could feel the vast star domain tremble slightly. A sun and moon core instantly entered her star domain and hung next to Paradise Planet. It was round and smooth, emitting a faint lustrous white light. Arbor felt his body lighten at this moment, and he was pulled into Mo Lian's embrace. They were already prepared, so after being ejected from the mystic realm, they very leisurely landed on the ground. On the other hand, the others simply didn't know that the mystic realm would instantly collapse, so they still had dumbfounded expressions on their faces. Especially Holy Sun Mi Yin. His expression was practically the highlight. That handsome face had a vacant expression, and his eyes even subconsciously blinked. When Arbor looked at him from afar, he suddenly felt like he was an idiot. Holy Sun Mi Yin suddenly turned his head and looked meaningfully at Arbor. He kept feeling that today's matter was greatly related to this stoic face. This little stoic was very eccentric. There was nothing she wouldn't do. Now that he thought about it again, the reason why the mystic realm collapsed was probably because the little stoic had absorbed all the spiritual energy. Although he thought of this, Holy Sun Mi Yin still didn't say anything and only said dryly to everyone, "Since the mystic realm has collapsed, then everyone cough, rest for a night, and then set off back." Everyone's dumbfounded state instantly turned into uncontrollable fury. What kind of freaking joke was this? They had traveled a long way to reach this place. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that they had practically experienced 3 calamities and 9 tribulations along the way, and they only managed to reach this sun and moon mystic realm after walking a fine line between life and death. In the end, they didn't reap a single cent of benefits. Heavens, earth! Since when was this world so unfair and filled with eerie malice toward the entire human world? Sir Jojo expressionlessly glanced at the wailing and crying crowd, then used his divine sense to carefully examine the items on the sun, moon, and star domain. Mo's small courtyard was filled with exotic flowers and rare herbs, so there was no need to mention this point. Besides, there were 5 treasure rooms built next to the small courtyard. These were where all of Mo's assets were located. Looking at the items, it should be quite sumptuous. Arbor thought about it and decided to wait until they left this place before taking out some good stuff for his companions. Otherwise, if he took it out now, it would seem like he was showing off in front of these miserable people. What a pity. She worked for nothing. Xiao Mu shook her head sympathetically before becoming expressionless again. Prince Imo looked at the little girl's rich expression and almost burst out laughing in his heart. The little guy's inner thoughts were full of drama. Naughty. He stroked her little head and said softly, "Jojo, let's go back to the capital." Xiao Mu looked up at him, and her heart involuntarily softened when she saw the gentle light overflowing from his eyes. She obediently nodded her small head. She actually wanted to play for a while before going back, however. Her husband wanted to return to the capital. He was probably thinking about the wedding ceremony. She naturally had to cooperate with him. Duan Yu glanced at them and remarked with a faint smile, "We've been out for quite some time. I also have to make a trip back first. We'll meet again at the academy." He knew that once they came out, it meant that they had to part ways. Although it made him extremely helpless, but they would eventually meet again, right? Arbor nodded and was about to say a few more words to Duan Yu when she suddenly heard Holy Sun Mi Yin roar, "Everyone, lie down." Everyone almost reflexively crouched down. Chapter 32:05. At the same time, there was a loud boom, and the tremors instantly shook the entire mountaintop. More than a dozen spirit stone cannons fired at them at the same time. That student from the Hong Academy who couldn't react in time was instantly blasted into pieces and vanished into thin air. Everyone's eyes were filled with fear. The temple's people were crafty as expected, actually lying in wait for them in this rear mountain. Once they left the secret realm and appeared here, they would immediately fall into the range of the spirit stone cannons. Of course, there was a huge difference between humans and cannons. No one wanted to be the bird that stuck out its neck and enjoy the might of the spirit stone cannons with its flesh and blood. Holy Sun Mian's expression was extremely unsightly. He didn't expect that the temple would shed all pretense of cordiality like this and want to annihilate all of them here. That middle-aged priest, Taishan, walked out from the crowd and said with a faint smile, "Holy Sun, you don't need to hide. I already saw you. Please come out." Holy Sun Mi Yan's expression became extremely unsightly. He then turned around and said to Arbor, Mo Yin, and the others behind him, "I'll go out and deal with them in a moment. You guys escape into the mountain as soon as possible." Once they entered the dense forest, the spirit stone cannon's accuracy would naturally be much worse. Although everyone's cultivation was outstanding, they didn't want to bear the might of more than a dozen spirit stone cannons. When they came out in the midst of the chaos, Arbor had already put away the little monk and the little monkey into his storage talisman without batting an eyelid. There were too many people, and it was very dangerous, so it naturally wasn't suitable for him to bring the two little ones out to play. Upon hearing Mian's words, Arbor involuntarily creased his brows and irritably retorted, "You're not a saint. You don't need to sacrifice yourself to save everyone." Holy Sun Mi Yin opened his mouth and then said exasperatedly, "Do you think I'm stupid? I naturally have the confidence to escape from these people. Don't show off." Arbor rolled his eyes irritably. "They've set up crossbows on the periphery of this rear mountain. We can activate the defensive barrier to resist for a while, but with spirit stone cannons, and spirit stone cannons. However, with the addition of the spirit stone cannons and crossbows, only a fool would continue to stay here. Of course, it would be better to think of a way to defeat them one by one after entering the dense forest." Holy Sun Mayan was rendered a bit speechless by the little stoic's words. However, at this moment, Chun Baojia suddenly stood up from the crowd. Taishan narrowed his eyes and waved his hand. All the cannons were aimed at Chun Baojia. The people squatting near Chun Baojia couldn't help but secretly complain. This foolish woman, she didn't even know where to aim the cannon accurately. Now that she suddenly stood up, she exposed their position to everyone. Wasn't this the same as shooting the bird that stood out? "Aren't you from the temple, coming for Arbor?" Although Chun Baojia was very scared, she gritted her teeth and said in a trembling voice, "We agree to give Arbor to you, but you have to promise not to hurt anyone else here." Holy Sun Mi Yin turned his head in disbelief and stared at Chun Baojia as if he was looking at a weirdo. Was this woman crazy? Who agreed to hand over the little stoic? Could she represent everyone here? What a joke. Chun Baojia hastily turned her head and said to everyone, "Can't you see? The temple wanted to capture Arbor both times. This matter has nothing to do with us at all. We were merely caught in the crossfire." Chapter 32:06. Everyone's expression became somewhat mysterious and abnormal. Not all of them were fools. Chun Baojia could see the problem. Did she think others couldn't? When seeing this spirit stone cannon, who still didn't understand the problem, this group of people from the Divine Temple and the group of people who fired at them in the Red River Canyon were definitely in cahoots. At that time, in the Red River Canyon, didn't they want to catch the little crown princess? They spent so much effort, perhaps just to catch the little crown princess. But even if they knew that they might be caught in the crossfire, so what? If you want to push the little crown princess out to suffer, you have to see whether her husband is willing or not. "Miss Chun," Holy Sun Mi Yin shouted, This Chen Baojia was really sick. At this time, instead of thinking about how to unite and escape, she was still fighting among herself. This kind of behavior was simply unbearable. Chen Baojia said in a shrill voice, "Does the Divine Temple want to catch her? Why do they want to implicate us?" Bang! Suddenly, a spirit stone cannon bombarded Chen Baojia's position. "Holy Sun Me!" Yin shouted. "Quickly get out of the way!" After a loud bang, Chen Baojia exerted all her strength and screamed as she rolled and dodged. Although she dodged quickly, she was still affected by the fragments of the spirit stone cannon. Her left arm was seriously injured, and blood flowed out at once. At the same time, a student of the Flying Sword Academy lying beside Chen Baojia was very unlucky and became a dead soul under the cannon. He didn't even have time to make sound before he died. Chen Baojia covered her mouth with her hand in horror, not daring to make another sound. What idiot! Jing Linyao frowned and sneered in the depths of her heart. Couldn't she see that the Divine Temple's purpose was to kill all of them? How could they let anyone live? This Chen Baojia was really stupid. Did she think that as long as she surrendered to the Divine Temple at this moment, she could get a chance to live? Jing Linyao curled her lips sarcastically, and her brain quickly worked on a plan to escape. These dozens of spirit stone cannons were aimed at them. No matter who moved first, they would end up like Chen Baojia and become the target of the cannon fire. "Don't act rashly," Yin whispered into her ear. He knew that Jojo had already made up his mind about the worst-case scenario, which was to take them all into his spirit realm at the risk of its leaking aura. However, if Jojo could not leave the back of the mountain, she would still appear in the same place when she reappeared. At that time, with the ability of the Sun Moon Hall Master, he would definitely be able to see through her. If the Heavenly Fate organization found out that they were carrying a great secret like the spirit realm, there would be a lot of trouble waiting for them. He could not let Jojo take the risk. At this moment, they were all hiding behind the vegetation. If they made any strange movements, it was hard to guarantee that they wouldn't become targets. Indeed, he was in a dilemma. Arbor clenched his small fist. "If there is no other way, we can only sacrifice those little guys on planet Shaji." If it was possible, of course, she wanted to solve the problem in front of her. However, if it was impossible, she would not deliberately force it. She couldn't take the risk with the lives of her companions. "Wait first." Yin understood her meaning and turned to smile at her. "I guess there will be a turn for the better." Chapter 32:07. What turning point? Arbor was taken aback. They were already being attacked with cannons, so what great turning point could there be? She used her divine conscious to flip through the divine weapons in her conscious, looking at them one by one. She was somewhat reluctant to part with them. These little fellows had fought alongside her all the way here. Now that she had to choose one to explode and destroy these enemies, she was naturally extremely reluctant. Forget it. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Yin suddenly reached out and lightly tugged at her small hand. "Look!" When Arbor looked up, she saw that the temple's team seemed to have fallen into disarray. After hearing two loud booms, it was as if the spirit stone cannons had suddenly exploded inside their team. This instantly caused the temple's people to become flustered. Yin took advantage of this opportunity to scoop up Sir Jojo's small body and dashed into the depths of the mountain forest. Duan Yu and the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal had already followed over. At the same time, apart from the Seacombe Planet Battle Team and Situ Yi's group, Holy Sun Mi Yan's group, and Jing Linyao's reaction was the fastest. Bang, bang, bang. Another 3 loud booms landed among the temple's team. An extremely swift figure instantly slid across the mountain and swiftly arrived beside Arbor and the others. "Hurry and leave, Jojo." Mu Xingqian's clothes were stained with a lot of dust, but his eyes were very bright. "Eldest brother," Arbor quickly called out, "was that you just now? Hurry, leave. We'll talk later." Mu Xingqian quickly tugged at her. Seeing that Yin was so petty as she hugged his younger sister to her side, he didn't have time to say anything else in his exhaustion from running for his life. Earlier, he snuck into the temple's team alone and took advantage of their unpreparedness to throw the temple's team into disarray, destroying several of their spirit stone cannons. At the same time, he also caused several spirit stone cannons to explode among the temple's team, causing this group of people to be flustered. But that was only a temporary effect. At this moment, hundreds and thousands of disciples rapidly surged out of the temple and charged toward them. If he didn't run now, when would he? As the saying goes, a wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Two fists are no match for four hands. If they were surrounded by tens of thousands of people from the Divine Hall, once they used the tactic of taking turns, they would be exhausted to death. Everyone ran into the dense forest. The plan now was to leave this outer area and enter the forest. Then, the heavy and sturdy spirit stone cannon would be useless. This dense forest at the back of the mountain was at least 10 million miles long. At that time, with so many of them scattered, even if the temple sent out tens of thousands of people to search, there was no way to find them one by one in this dense forest. Jojo thought the same. As long as she could disappear from these people's sight, she would have a way to escape with Mo Lien and the others. Perhaps, before he left, he might even be able to give the Hall of Gods a huge gift. After all, the other party had already taken care of them and plotted to take their lives time and time again. If they didn't return the favor, it would be a little unreasonable. Chun Baojia hurriedly followed the crowd's footsteps, but before she could run 2 steps, she was slapped in the face by a female student beside her. "You're such a harmful slut. How dare you run with us? Get lost." Chun Baojia bumped into a tree and was shocked to hear a gust of wind behind her. She hurriedly dodged behind the tree, and a spirit stone cannon blew up the tree behind her. Chapter 3208. Chun Baojia screamed in shock as the female student slapped me in the face again. "Bitch, you still have the face to scream." If it weren't for this woman, her senior brother wouldn't have died. This woman didn't want to live, yet she still implicated others. If it wasn't for the fact that the timing wasn't right, she would have drawn her sword and slashed her 3 times. "Hong Yao, hurry up and leave. Don't get involved with her." A male student ran out from the side and hurriedly dragged her away. The spirit stone cannon fell again. This time, it blew up one of Queen Fu Sha's subordinates. Queen Fu Sha shouted and turned her head to look. Then, she quickly disappeared into the forest under the protection of the remaining 6 strong men. Chun Baojia followed them in a panic. Her arm was injured, and she was also slapped twice by the female student from Flying Sword Academy. She was seeing stars, and her forehead was bleeding. Right now, she looked extremely battered and exhausted. The group of people quickly entered the dense forest. Then, they disappeared under the cover of the tall trees. At this time, Arbor only cared about his own people. Who would have the patience to care about other people's lives? The group of people ran for about half an hour. Only when they heard the sound of the cannons subsiding did they stop running. Arbor turned around and let everyone see if anyone was injured. He counted the number of people and found that everyone was present. At the same time, Holy Sun Mi Yin, the 2 priests, and 7 or 8 guards also came over. "Jojo, are you hurt?" Mu Xingqian hurriedly asked. "I'm by Jojo's side. How can I let him get hurt?" Mo Lien muttered in a low voice. Mu Xingqian glanced at him and then nodded. It had to be said that Jojo's husband was much more reliable than him. Mu Xingqian thought emotionally. Arbor glanced at Mu Xingqian. "Big brother, why did you suddenly appear? Where's that person?" Before, he had seen Mu Xingqian supporting Mu Rochuan all the way. Now that Mu Rochuan had suddenly disappeared and only Mu Xingqian was left, it was a bit strange. Mu Xingqian couldn't help but smile bitterly. "Rochuan threw a tantrum at me and ran away. At that time, I was in the midst of a space-time swap. I wasn't paying attention, and she disappeared without a trace." It would be a lie to say that he was not worried. However, with Rochuan's temper, Mu Xingqian could not help but close his eyes. It was too vexing. Arbor asked no more questions. Mu Rochuan was merely a stranger to her, so her life and death were not within Xiao Mu's scope of consideration. Hearing this, Qi Xianxian could not help but snort and turn her head away. Panting sounds could be heard from afar as the underworld region's Prince Ming Bao and the Eternal Peace Duke's crown Prince Imo Lu hurriedly ran over. When he saw them, he quickly stopped and gasped, "Oh, it's so good to see you all. Quick, quick, let's go. Don't go down like a mushroom here. They are coming." Abyss Leopard panted and waved his hand. Everyone's expression turned cold. Just as they were about to turn around and leave, they heard the sound of hurried footsteps coming from the back of the path. Chun Baojia's hair was disheveled, and her forehead was stained with blood. She immediately stumbled out of the path. She raised her head and happened to see Mo Lian. Her eyes instantly reddened as she cried, "Your Highness!" Mo Lian's gaze turned severe. Seeing his fingers twitch, Qiao Mu hastily grabbed his hand. Zhou's Lian could not dirty his hands for this kind of person. Chapter 3209. Qin Baojia ran over in tears and wailed, "Your Highness the Crown Prince, help me, Your Highness the Crown Prince." She somersaulted and fell to the ground. She touched her forehead and felt the sticky blood beads dripping down. She actually scared herself. Duan Yu frowned imperceptibly and was about to slap this woman away to avoid listening to her prattle. Sensing his actions, Qiao Mu quickly stopped him. "Don't pay attention to her. If she wanted to beat this woman, she could do it herself. She couldn't implicate their reputations." Liang Qingqing couldn't resist chuckling. What, a level 9 spiritual cultivator can't even walk properly? Chun Baojia angrily gritted her teeth and stood up with an unsightly expression. She trembled as she stood on the side and kept sneaking furtive glances at the expressionless Arbor. She gritted her teeth and still said, Miss Qiao." Emolian shot her a sharp look. "I think you want to die." Arbor quickly smoothed the hair of Lian, who was about to explode, and turned to glance at Chun Baojia dryly. "I advise you to leave quickly." "Well, why do you have to tell me to leave quickly?" Chun Baojia's fury surged. If it weren't for this woman, how could the crown prince treat her so coldly and heartlessly? How could he not even look at her? Since Chun Chaoji doesn't know how to teach his daughter, we will teach her in his place. Emolian couldn't help but get angry. He raised his hand and was about to kill Chun Baojia on the spot. Xiao Qiao hurriedly grabbed his arm and stopped him. Zhongli Jiwei had already died earlier. If Chun Chaoji's daughter also died here, who knew what kind of monstrous waves would be stirred up in court? Moreover, that Zhongli Jiwei could be said to have been killed by the space because of the mystic realm. If the crown prince personally killed this Chun Baojia, it would definitely attract a lot of criticism. Although Zhou's Lotus had always been willful and reckless and was never afraid of these criticisms, Zhou didn't like it. He didn't like these people always talking about Zhou's Lotus. Duan Yu's eyes flashed with impatience. So long-winded. In this prince's opinion, it's better to kill him as soon as possible. After saying that, a long sword landed in his hand. Chun Baojia immediately panicked. She stepped back and screamed, "You can't kill me. My father is the current left Prime Minister Chen Chaoji. My grandaunt is Empress Dowager Chun, who is also the crown prince's grandmother. Chen Baojia wasn't truly a fool. When she saw Duan Yu's murderous intent, she knew he really wanted to kill her. She hastily scrambled towards Holy Sun Mayan while shouting, "Holy Sun, save me! Lord Holy Sun, save me!" Holy Sun Me Yin felt like fucking a dog. This Chen Baojia didn't use her brain and just had to provoke that little stoic who wasn't to be trifled with. Now that the matter had escalated and couldn't be resolved, she dragged him down with her. Seeing that Holy Sun Mi Yan's expression was very unsightly, Chen Baojia shrunk behind him while trembling. She glanced at Duan Yu with terror in her eyes. Her hands tightly clutched Mi Yan's outer robe, treating him as her last life-saving straw. Arbor couldn't help but feel a headache, and he quickly went up to drag Duan Yu over. "I said to ignore her. What's the point of killing this kind of person? You'll only dirty your hands. Let's go." If this Chen Baojia had any brains, she wouldn't have followed them here. Chapter 3210. However, it was evident that this Chun Baojia was extremely brainless. Not only did she follow them, But she also hid behind Mayan the entire time and watched them cautiously and vigilantly. Since she was vigilant, then she shouldn't have followed them. She even insisted on following their group. She was truly very annoying. Mayan also felt that this woman was incredibly annoying and flung her hand away several times. She said coldly, "Miss Chun, please watch your manners." Chen Baojia couldn't help but feel exasperated. Although Sir Holy Sun was also quite handsome, the one she liked in her heart was His Highness the Crown Prince from start to finish. Otherwise, she wouldn't have listened to Madame Gowen's arrangements and willingly stayed in the Crown Prince's Eastern Palace to wait for his return. However, she didn't expect His Highness the Crown Prince to be so heartless and drive her out of the Eastern Palace before she even returned to the Divine Province. The gloominess in her heart had been accumulating until she saw the little stoic before completely erupting. She used Uniquely Jr. to test this little crown princess, but the result was that she returned in low spirits. After several confrontations, she and Zhongli Zhuwei suffered countless hidden losses at this stoic's hands. Even this time, even Zhongli Zhuwei died at the hands of the little crown princess. She knew that she should give up and at least think of a way to fight for that position after leaving this place. But every time she saw His Highness the Crown Prince treat this stoic well, she couldn't tolerate it anymore. She really wanted to explode all the resentment in her heart. I'm somewhat familiar with this rear mountain. Holy Sun Mayan walked to the little crown princess side and said gravely, "There are 4 entrances and exits in this mountain forest. The temple will definitely heavily seal off these 4 places. I can take you to leave through a secret passage. However, it's a bit far to go around that place. It's very sparsely populated, so the path isn't too easy to walk." "It's fine. Then lead the way." Arbor nodded faintly. "That's our temple's sacred ground." Holy Sun Mayan was silent for a moment before saying with a sigh, "Unless it's absolutely necessary, I really don't want to take you on this trip." After all, no matter what, he was still a member of the temple. He didn't want to bring a group of outsiders to trample on the temple's sacred ground. Arbor could sense his feelings at the moment, so he looked at him and said, "Actually, we can take another exit." Now that the enemy was out in the open and he was in the dark, he could just hide for a while and think of a way to break through. Holy Sun Mi, Yin shook his head. Going to the Holy Land is the simplest and most direct way. He knew how much the temple master valued this place. Generations of ancestors of the Divine Hall were enshrined in the sacred ground of the Divine Hall. It was impossible for the temple master to bring a group of guards to this place, to encircle and annihilate them. Holy Sun Mi Yin took a deep breath. "Let's go." Everyone let Holy Sun Mi Yin lead the way, and the group quickly followed. Chen Baojia didn't leave either. She stayed at the back of the group and followed them like a little wife. Seeing that everyone was walking so fast, completely ignoring her injuries and the fact that her body couldn't take it, she couldn't help but feel angry. Holy Sun Mi Yin led them around a mountain forest until they found a small path in the depths of the forest. Along the way, thorns were everywhere. Leading the way, Holy Sun Mi Yin had to let several priests and temple guards constantly cut down the thorns on both sides with swords and sabers. "Ah!" Chen Baojia suddenly screamed in panic, her legs trembling. Chapter 32:11. A venomous snake suddenly slithered out of the grass nest and coldly stared at her like this with its triangular eyes. Liang Qingqing couldn't help but curl her lips mockingly. "I say, you're a level 9 spiritual cultivator. Can you not act like such a noob?" Whenever she encountered something, she would start chirping like a normal person. Liang Qingqing only felt that this woman was very funny. Chen Baojia was truly like a bird startled by the twang of a bow. It was as if she was completely scared out of her wits by those cannons earlier and was cowering in fear and terror at everything she saw. Chen Baojia originally wanted to retort when she heard Liang Qingqing's mockery, but when she saw the group of people shooting cold gazes at her, she suddenly deflated like a deflated ball and couldn't speak. She was simply not liked by this group. But what could she do? With her strength alone, how could she get out the back gate of the Sun Moon Temple? Of course, she had to go with them. Did they think she liked seeing Arbor women's expressions and being fed dog food along the way? She didn't want to stay with this damn Arbor for even a minute, but she had no other choice. Let's go. Holy Sun Me, Yin waved his hand and led everyone into the depths of the small path. This area was filled with mountains and forests. To be honest, if it weren't for the Holy Sun leading the way, they might not be able to find such a hidden path even after searching for 10 days to half a month. There is only this one path leading to the temple's sacred land, so Holy Sun Me, Yin, was a bit apprehensive. If the temple master of the temple really brought people to the sacred land relentlessly, he gritted his teeth. Suddenly, he saw the little stoic turn her head and glance at him. The Holy Sun's expression stiffened slightly, and he retorted out of habit, "What are you looking at?" The little stoic said expressionlessly, "Why did you give up on pursuing the sun-moon twin wheels in the mystic realm?" Holy Sun Me, Yin stared blankly for a moment before sighing and saying, "The temple has already become like that, so there's no point in me pursuing this supreme, holy weapon." As he spoke, he had a disheartened look on his face. It was completely different from his arrogant look from before. The little stoic swept him an indifferent glance. "If the temple master of the temple chases after us with people in a while, don't worry, I will find a way to get you out of here." Upon hearing this, the little stoic inexplicably felt a bit uneasy. She cast him a glance and asked, "What do you mean?" Chen Baojia's exclamation interrupted the conversation between the two. Her finger was trembling as she pointed at the slope diagonally opposite. Everyone glanced over and saw a large number of temple guards rushing towards them. Chen Baojia shouted hysterically, He betrayed us! He betrayed us!" The direction she was pointing at was naturally Holy Sun Me Yin. The saint glanced at her indifferently and couldn't be bothered with what this moron had to say. He retracted his gaze and said to everyone, "Follow me." As soon as Holy Sun Me Yin moved, everyone followed him and moved quickly. Exerting strength in their legs, they all ran towards the end of the small path. There's a mountain wall in front of him. Holy Sun Me Yin punches at a distance and hits a round copper plate on the mountain wall. The copper disc was engraved with the pattern of the sun and the moon, and it rattled under the force of the punch. It slowly rotated in a clockwise direction. A mountain wall door on the side instantly lifted up with a whoosh. Holy Sun Me Yin roared, "Go in." Everyone dashed into the long tunnel without the slightest hesitation. Chapter 32:12. The gray-haired man narrowed his eyes and sneered. "Me Yin, the temple has nurtured you for so many years, and this is how you repay us. You actually privately brought a group of outsiders to our temple's sacred land. You let these guys' filthy blood stain our bright and holy sacred land. You simply deserve to die." Holy Sun Me Yin turned around and sneered at him. "Temple Master, the temple is no longer that bright and holy existence. Don't deceive yourself and others anymore." "Nonsense." The temple master threw a punch through the air. With a boom, it smashed into a nearby stone stool, instantly shattering the stone stool that was half a person's height. Everyone involuntarily shuddered in their hearts. Mo Yin's eyes flickered. This person is a peak venerated immortal. Although he looks like a middle-aged man, he's probably over 500 years old, the venerated Peach Blossom immortal said softly. He pulled the little stoic behind him and instructed in a low voice, "When we tell you to run later, run inside quickly." The little fellow was a bit unhappy. "Then what about you guys? We'll come in a moment." Prince Immerse smiled at her. "You have to be obedient, understand?" At this time, Holy Sun Me Yin had already retreated into the tunnel with everyone. He sneered the gray-haired man outside and said, "Nonsense? Ever since our temple was founded, we've always promoted our good to the outside world with the doctrine of brightness and upward progress. However, Temple Master, what you're doing is truly disdainful." Holy Sun Me Yin said coldly, "Is our Sun-Moon Temple's reputation not great enough in the 3 provinces? Is it not enough prestige? Why must we obey a cult organization? Why must we wallow in the mire with this cult organization? What do you know?" That temple master spread his arms with a cold expression. Heavenly fortune is where the heavenly Tao lies in this world. It represents justice. Holy Sun Mi, Yin looked at the palace lord in front of him, whose expression was slightly abnormal with astonishment. Why did he feel like the temple master was brainwashed by something? Heavenly fortune represented heavenly Tao. Haha, who gave him the face to represent heavenly Tao? Did the heavenly Tao agree? Mian, it's not too late for you to turn back now. The temple lord said in a tempting tone. Kill these people for me right now. You can immediately return to our divine palace and continue to be the holy son of our divine palace. Chen Baojia jumped and hurriedly retreated a dozen steps until she was behind Liang, Qingqing, and the others. Her body trembled as she shouted, will he betray us? Listen to the temple lord. Come and kill us. Liang Qingqing was enraged by her petty behavior. She pushed her to the side and said, get lost. This woman still dared to slander the Holy Sun. Did she forget that she was the one who had shamelessly followed the Holy Sun all the way to seek protection? Now, in less than half a day, she immediately turned her back on him. Holy Sun Mi, Yin smiled at him. Suddenly, he punched a wall lamp beside him. That wall lamp flickered and suddenly disappeared. At this time, that mountain wall door that had been lifted up suddenly fell down with a crash and crashed harshly onto the ground, directly sealing off the tunnel. Let's go. Mo Yin gently raised her hand and directly pushed Sir Jojo towards Duan Yu. Hurry. Arbor could not react in time. Chapter 32:13. Duan Yu, who was beside her, grabbed her by the arm and directly pulled her into a mad dash towards the depths of the tunnel. These guys truly coordinated well. Before Arbor could react, he was already pulled several dozen meters away by Duan Yu. Soon after, Sita Yi, Liang Qingqing, and the rest also hastily dashed towards the depths of the tunnel. Shen Baojia was half a beat slower than everyone. She was so anxious and angry that her face was distorted from fright. She hastily chased after them and repeatedly shouted, wait for me, wait for me. Bam! A heavy impact came from outside the mountain wall. It was the sound of the spirit stone cannons hitting the mountain wall. Holy Sun Mi, Yin was the first to throw out a defensive boundary to seal the mountain wall. Soon after, Mo Yin and Hu Jinshin also sent out a beam of sacred energy at the same time to reinforce that defensive boundary. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of explosions rang out incessantly. Holy Sun Mi, Yin said calmly, this path leads directly to the outside of the mountain. With their speed, it would take them about half an incense stick's worth of time to escape. As long as they left this tunnel in the dense forest where flying was inconvenient, the Holy Sun thought Arbor would be able to summon that fire phoenix and swiftly escape with everyone. With the flying beast speed, there was absolutely no way it could catch up to that fire phoenix. The prerequisite was that they had to delay the Hall Master here as much as possible. This old monster's cultivation realm is quite high, Hu Jinshan ridiculed, a harsh glint flashing through her pitch-black eyes. At their level of transcendent divine realm cultivation, even though they were in the same realm, the difference between the middle stage and late stage was like heaven and earth. Holy Sun Mi, Yin said, I remember that 1 year ago, his cultivation realm was still hovering around the middle stage of the venerable immortal realm. He stopped at the middle stage for about 200 years. Holy Sun Mi, Yin sighed and said, with his aptitude, I thought that he would never be able to break through to the middle stage in his lifetime. I didn't expect that he actually jumped 2 minor realms in 1 year. He actually went straight to the peak, just like that. Boom! The stone wall suddenly split apart, revealing the temple master's slightly distorted face. Want to know why? The temple master chuckled mischievously, and then the entire tunnel was filled with his maniacal laughter. Long live the heavenly fortune. It's the heavenly fortune that changed my fate. Ha 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 ha. I also thought that I would stop here for the rest of my life. But I never imagined that I would actually have the chance to advance, and advance by 2 minor realms at that. As long as I continue to follow in the footsteps of Tian Yun, I'll be able to ascend to a higher realm step by step. Haha. You lot actually dare to hinder me from increasing my cultivation. You should all rest here. He's already gone mad. Mo Yin said faintly. Holy Sun Mi Yin suddenly pushes him and he Jiechin. Let's go. Then, he waved his palm at them and sent them flying a few feet away. At the same time, he punched a button beside him, and the sound of a spring activating could be heard in the distance. The entire passageway was suddenly filled with arrows and arrows, shooting at each other. The Temple Lord flicked the arrowhead in front of him with one hand and screamed with anger. Mian, you traitor to God! You will receive the punishment you deserve. If your God is the Tianyun cult, Holy Sun Mi, Yin sneered, I will betray you today. The Temple Lord roared and rushed into the passageway with people. He waved his hand vigorously. Kill them for me. Chapter 32:14. Gurgle gurgle. A sound came from outside the stone wall. A dozen stern-looking temple guards slowly pushed a heavy spirit stone cannon into the passageway. One of them picked up 5 fist-sized spirit stones and placed them in the cannon. The cannon abruptly fired, and the long passageway shook violently. Holy Sun Mi Yin stood in the middle of the passageway with a cold and handsome face, and his sleeves fluttered despite the absence of wind. He gathered a wisp of holy power in one hand and suppressed the incoming spirit stone cannon in midair. Everyone saw with their naked eyes that the dazzling ball of light abruptly stopped. It made a light gurgling sound as it confronted Holy Sun Mi Yan's holy power. The temple master snorted coldly and spread open his arms as he roared furiously, a mantis trying to stop a chariot, courting death. As he roared, the entire passageway seemed to tremble and sway. Suddenly, a gush of underground water broke through the stratum and rolled upwards, directly attacking Holy Sun Mi Yan's chest. You, a mere spiritual venerable realm cultivator, also dares to chirp and curse in front of this lord. Today, I'll let you know what it means to say that there is always someone better than you. Ha 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 ha. The temple master's head of white hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes glowed with a blood-red light, and his facial features were abnormally distorted. Bang! The surging water fiercely slammed into the defensive barrier that Holy Sun Mi Yan had set up. In just an instant, Holy Sun Mi Yan's defensive barrier was completely shattered by this water spirit energy. The power of a peak, immortal, venerable realm cultivator made people feel how insignificant all things in the world were. Everything was like an ant in front of him. Holy Sun Mi Yin flew backwards. Mo Yin and Ma Engchun leaped up at the same time and reached out to support his retreating figure, barely managing to steady him. The water in front of them transformed into countless sharp claws that rapidly swept towards them. The little stoic and the others had already fled to the middle of the passageway. They felt the earth quaking and the mountain shaking violently. Their bodies swayed along with the mountain walls as they ran, and they felt sand and rocks falling from above their heads from time to time. Arbor kept looking back at the tunnel, but he didn't see Mo Yin and the other two. He started to panic for no reason. Jojo, don't worry, they will come over. Duan Yu comforted her softly. The little fellow's face was expressionless, and he felt a little worried for no reason. The few of them ran to the turning point and went around it. They found that the tunnel was going uphill. Everyone rushed towards the exit, not daring to stay for even a moment. Arbor was a little anxious, but she did not show it on her face. It was only when she turned back and saw Mo Yin and He Chin's clothes swaying around the corner that she let out a sigh of relief. With a wave of her small hand, a set of teleportation talisman arrays fell into her hand. Come here quickly. Currently, her Earth-rank teleportation glyph array could teleport her to a maximum of 50 kilometers away. But to be honest, a distance of 100 miles was nothing to a peak immortal venerable. They could kill their way over in a matter of minutes. As a result, the little stoic had never touched this talisman matrix. Furthermore, the number of people allowed to use the teleportation glyph array could not exceed 20. Their team naturally had more than 20 people. At this critical juncture, the little fellow couldn't care too much. In front of an outsider like Chun Baojia, the little stoic could only put Qi Xian and the others into the storage talisman with a frown. Only Sito Yi, Duan Mu Qing, Hidden Flower, Yu Xiu, and Mu Xingchen remained. Chapter 32:15. As a result, they moved much faster. The little stoic looked at Mo Yin and Ma Yinshan, who swiftly floated in front of her. She flicked open the talisman matrix and then hastily asked, "Where's Mi Yin?" For some reason, a bad premonition surfaced in her heart. She recalled Mi Yan's words, "Don't worry, I definitely have a way to make you guys leave." These words didn't sound right no matter how she listened to them. "Behind us. She'll be there soon." As soon as Mo Yin finished speaking, they simultaneously saw Mi Yin swiftly dashing in their direction. "Hurry!" The little stoic hastily opened the talisman matrix, and a halo instantly enveloped everyone. The temple master's figure emerged from around the corner. At the same time, he pushed the several hundred temple guards and 2 spirit stone cannons over at full speed by himself. "Try to run!" The temple master shouted angrily. Like a monstrous wave, the rolling water crashed toward the transportation talisman matrix beneath everyone. Splash! As the water splashed everywhere, their figures simultaneously disappeared from the transportation talisman matrix. The temple master sneered and then raised his hands. A dozen or so ghost claws formed from water forcefully grabbed those temple guards and carried them forward at full speed. Some of the guards who couldn't withstand such a ferocious speed instantly felt their ears hurt, and some people even bled from their mouths and noses. When the temple master saw that these people were so useless, he naturally had the ghost claws crush them and toss them into the tunnel. The remaining guards all trembled and did their best to mobilize the defensive power around them so that they could withstand the pressure the temple master inadvertently emitted. They didn't want to be discarded here like trash. When Arbor and the others appeared 50 kilometers away, they had already reached the tunnel entrance. Everyone exited the transportation talisman matrix and swiftly dashed out of the temple's sacred ground. Chun Baojia hastily stumbled after them. She felt like she was about to be tortured to death this entire time. She clearly came here to search for treasures and seize the opportunity to get close to His Highness the Crown Prince. But when it came down to it, she discovered that she gained nothing other than numerous dangers along the way. "Let's go." Holy Sun Mi Yin shoved Mo Yin and then turned to dash toward the tunnel entrance. "Old bastard, where are you going?" Arbor couldn't help but roar. Holy Sun Mi Yin couldn't help but twitch the corner of her mouth. She turned to look at her and said expressionlessly, "Get out of here. I'll take care of my temple's matters myself." "Mi Yin." Arbor glared at her. "Come back here. Piss off." Holy Sun Mi Yin waved his hand as he returned to the tunnel. At this moment, the temple lord had already caught up. His huge figure floated in the air as he laughed sinisterly. "None of you can leave." The temple lord's expression suddenly changed, and he exclaimed, "Are you crazy?" Mi Yin slapped on a dragon head mechanism beside her, and a series of loud, rumbling noises could be heard coming from the tunnel. The temple lord was on the verge of a mental breakdown. His eyes almost popped out as he stared at Mi Yin. His movements were faster than his brain, and he had already pounced towards the tunnel behind Mi Yin. At this moment, he couldn't care about anyone else. He only wanted to escape from this place as soon as possible and save his old life. Mi Yin was truly a fucking lunatic. He actually activated the mechanism of the 9 stars killing array. Chapter 32:16. He knew this disc array better than anyone else. It was the Death Talisman array of the Holy Land. Once it was activated, there was no possibility of stopping it. The whole Holy Land would sink together with this back mountain. Even if he was a peak immortal venerable, in front of the killing array, under the heavy force of nature, he could only die. At this time, the mechanism in the tunnel had been fully activated again. All kinds of hidden weapons and swords were flying back and forth in the tunnel, so fast that it was almost too much for the eyes to take in. The holy snow robe on Mi Yan's body had long been riddled with holes by swords and swords, and her arms and body were full of scratches. Mian, Arbor, and Mo Yin rushed to the entrance of the tunnel, only to see that the dragon-breaking stone at the entrance had been urged to slide down quickly. Across the dragon-breaking stone, Arbor only saw Holy Sun Mi. Yin smile at her and spit out the last word, "Get lost. You bastard. You hypocritical, great holy sun. Do you think you can save the whole world?" Arbor was anxious and angry, and couldn't help but curse. Suddenly, she saw a bright light, and with a whoosh, it almost shot her face. Xiaomu reached out with her hand and saw a ring lying quietly in her palm. "Huh, you even handed over the inheritance, right?" Arbor was stunned and secretly said "Chio-chio" in her heart. A winding wooden vine was instantly thrown in from below the dragon-breaking stone and wrapped around Holy Sun Mi Yan's wrist. At the same time, the aura of the spirit domain suddenly spread out. Mian's face stiffened. The temple master screamed excitedly. "Spirit domain? Who? Who is it? Who has the spirit domain?" If someone didn't have a spirit domain, how could there be the aura of the spirit domain opening at this time? The temple master didn't care about the several bloody holes in his body caused by the flying hidden weapons, and he rushed up excitedly. With a wave of his hand, a stream of water shot out, quickly wrapping Mian's body. At the same time, the little water baby suddenly came out of the vines. The little fat hand slightly raised, and the stream of water that was coming toward them suddenly changed direction and slapped at the temple master at a fast speed. "Go to hell." The little water child raised a huge fist, a fist that was more than 10 times the size of his body condensed from his tiny body, and swung it at the temple master. Boom! The tunnel sank rapidly. Dragged by the 9 stars killing formation, the Divinity Palace master fell desperately towards the dark cave entrance. He roared angrily and wanted to jump up, but he was quickly whipped down by dozens of thick vines. Holy water! It was actually the power of holy water. Only the holy water could restrain his 9th layer spirit water. Unwilling, he was unwilling. There was holy water and the smell of spirit realm in front of him. All of this should have been his. With these supplementary items, he would definitely be able to leap from the peak of the immortal venerable realm. But now Holy Sun Mi Yin was dragged by the vines, and his figure was about to disappear in midair. The temple master roared with his last breath. The ghost claw formed by the water current grabbed at Holy Sun Mi Yan's head. The little water baby suddenly took a deep breath and absorbed all the water spirit power of the temple master. Then he opened his little mouth, and countless needle-sized ice thorns shot out, swarming at the temple master who was trapped in the cave. "Damn it!" the temple master shouted angrily. Chapter 32:17. He was unwillingly and helplessly dragged down by the 9 stars fatal formation. The instant he fell into that underground cave, he tossed something up. Bang! That signal source rushed out of the dark cave and sprinkled light and shadow all over the sky under the blazing sun. The little water child swung a white bead in his hand and confirmed again, "Master, do we really have to do this?" Explode. Arbor shouted sternly. Bang! After another loud bang, the passageway sank down and disappeared. The entire mountain started to rapidly sink and slide, and the mountain walls abruptly collapsed in a burst of smoke. "Let's go." Mo Yin scooped up the slightly pale Sir Jojo and flew up, summoning 7 Swallow. Everyone followed suit and flew up with a swish. 7 Swallow didn't need Mo Yin to say anything at all. With a flick of his tail, he directly shot up into the sky. Rocks kept falling down from both sides of the river. The scene before them was simply an unparalleled catastrophe. Everywhere was gray and hazy, and rubble rolled down. The golden dragon passed through the clouds and let out a furious roar. With a flick of his tail, he shattered a flying rock. After passing through the clouds several times, they got further and further away from that mountain range shrouded in gray mist. The little stoic's face was slightly pale. Ever since she sat on 7 Swallow's dragon back, she didn't speak again. Instead, she closed her eyes and meditated to regulate her breathing. Emol Yin and the others stifled their resentment, so they simply killed their way back and returned to the sky above the Sun Moon Temple. Since Tianyin wanted to start a war with them, then let him come. Layers of black flames floated around Emol Yin's body, rolling around her like giant black waves. A glaring, silvery white flame swooped down like a belt of light and instantly smashed into the Sun Moon Temple signboard. Boom! The remaining guards inside the temple hastily ran out and organized their troops, preparing to launch a counterattack. He saw a black flame spreading from the horizon, surging and covering the earth. From within, a huge black lotus rose. The flower bud closed, and the lotus was immersed in an ancient time. The ink-colored lotus disappeared in the blink of an eye, but the raging black fire quickly engulfed the house in front of him. Situ E controlled fire, Duan Muqing controlled wood, Hidden Flower's water spirit, and Yushio's fire spirit all rushed down at the same time. Miserable cries came from the crowd. Those desperados knew that they were about to die, but they still crazily stretched out their hands to the sky and shouted, "Long live Tianyin!" It was completely hopeless. This thought appeared in everyone's mind, and then the spiritual power in their hands surged and swept down. Bang, 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 bang! The windows in the main hall instantly exploded into a series of sparks under the scorching flames. The middle-aged priest, Taishan, raised a long staff and ran out of the temple. He roared towards the sky. "You godslayers have violated the heavenly Tao and ignored the mandate of heaven. In the end, you will receive a dark future and endless fear." On his body, a wisp of black fire slowly burned. Emol Yin looked at him coldly with a trace of coldness and killing intent in her eyes. "Your temple master is already dead. Impossible, impossible!" Taishan screamed with a twisted expression. Although he could feel that his life force had reached its end under the burning of the black flame, he still couldn't believe that his temple master had been killed by this group of juniors. Chapter 32:18. The temple master was an almighty figure who was about to break through to the venerated immortal realm. He couldn't possibly die, and it was even more impossible for him to die at the hands of these nameless juniors. Arbor abruptly opened her eyes. Her eyes were very clear and bright. Although her complexion was a bit pale, her eyes were especially pitch black and deep. She looked at him with unconcealable contempt. "Your gods have long been exterminated by the greed and vanity in your hearts. You are the ones who have truly slain gods. Die, all of you!" Arbor shouted angrily. Her fingers drooped slightly, and countless vines madly sprouted from her fingertips. Subsequently, waves of sand scorpions emerged. They crawled down from the vines and flooded into the shrine. Ah! Taishan was entangled by the black flames and rolled on the ground in pain. Soon after, he was drowned by the sand scorpions that quickly crawled forward. He struggled and whimpered twice in the sand scorpions. After the sand scorpions left, only a string of broken bones could be seen on the ground. When Emol Yin saw that his little stoic was fine apart from her complexion still being a bit pale, he restrained his violent rage slightly. He suddenly turned his head and said to Yushio, "Where's Chun Baojia?" Everyone's expressions changed slightly. After exiting the tunnel, no one paid any attention to that woman. However, Chun Baojia must have seen every scene from when Jojo opened the spiritual domain to when he took away Holy Sun Mian. If she wasn't killed to silence her, there was no guarantee that she wouldn't go out and spout nonsense. This subordinate will go immediately. Yushio and Hidden Flower naturally reacted especially quickly. Without needing the crown prince to say anything, the two immediately flew out. They summoned their flying beasts and rapidly followed the original path, rushing to the destroyed shrine's rear mountain. At the same time, little Tai Sui, Dao Wuji, and the others also rushed out of the paradise to help eliminate the root of the problem. Everything ended an hour later. The shrine was in ruins, and not a single person was left alive. Arbor coldly glanced at the ruins below and reached out to recall all the sand scorpions. Rubble and desolation filled the area. After everyone landed and stood on this pitch-black wasteland, they all peeked at the expressionless little stoic. Duan Yu secretly nudged Mo Lien with his elbow. The two of them exchanged a look. The little stoic is angry. Although this little fellow didn't say anything after that, they knew her too well. Looking at her tight little face, one could tell that she was in an extremely bad mood right now. You've offended him. Hurry up and beg for mercy. Otherwise, you'll be implicated. Duan Yu continuously signaled Mo Lien with his small eyes. The latter gave him a sideways glance and was a little confused. When did he provoke his wife? His wife was unhappy. Shouldn't it be because of Holy Sun Mi Yin? Arbor turned around and glanced at them. With a flick of his finger, everyone was pulled into Paradise Planet. The little fellow walked towards Holy Sun Mi Yin expressionlessly. At a glance, she saw that guy looking around in a daze. Stoic face. Why are you guys? Holy Sun Mi Yin turned his head and saw the little stoic walking towards him with layers of chilly intent. The little stoic walked faster and faster. In the end, she ran a few steps and rushed in front of Holy Sun Mi Yin. Without waiting for the Holy Sun to speak, she raised her small hand, and a crisp slap landed on his face. Chapter 32:19. Holy Sun Mi Yin stared at her in bewilderment, his eyes blinking nonstop. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines and discovered that the current atmosphere was very unfavorable due to the little stoic's oppressive aura. Who wants you to be a saint? Sir Jojo yelled angrily. Are you an idiot? Do you think you can save everyone in the world? I'm most annoyed by people like you who immediately push Sir Jojo back whenever something happens. The little stoic bellowed angrily. Do you think you're so capable? If you can do everything by yourself, then what do you need Sir Jojo to do? Everyone wanted to laugh when they heard her repeatedly call him Sir Jojo, but if they laughed now, they would be rebuked. We agreed to fight side by side. You throw this Sir back whenever you encounter danger. Arbor jabbed Mi Yan's shoulder with his index finger and said furiously, You, on the other hand, can just lie on the ground after sacrificing yourself and die without any regrets. You still want this Sir to owe you an enormous favor? In your dreams. Do you think it's so easy to owe me a favor? Holy Sun Mi Yin retreated step by step. Xian moved to Arbor's side with small steps and whispered, Jojo, let's treat the Holy Sun's injuries first. The pitiful Holy Sun looked like he was about to die. Arbor's small face darkened as he expressionlessly roared at Holy Sun Mi Yin, Strip. Everyone's mouths twitched. Holy Sun Mi Yin even stretched out his arms with an exaggerated expression and crossed them in front of his chest 5 minutes later. Holy Sun Mi Yin, whose entire body was smeared with ointment, continuously curled up and exclaimed, Hey, stoic face, be gentler, gentler. My arm is seriously injured. The little stoic's small face was cold as she bluntly scolded as she bandaged him. Aren't you illuminated by holy light? Holy Sun Mi Yin was embarrassed by the rebuke. I didn't know you had a spirit domain. It seemed that Lord Jojo had been on guard against him all this time. Perhaps it was because he was here that the little stoic didn't open the spirit domain and put everyone inside. Of course, there was also Chun Baojia. Thinking of this, the saint suddenly felt a little wronged. Then he said, That's Chun Baojia. You want to use the heart of a saint to save her life again. Holy Sun Mi Yin felt a bit wronged. I'm just asking, why do you keep attacking me? I'm giving it back to you. The little stoic's face was taut as she irritably threw something at his face. When Holy Sun Mi Yin took that spatial ring, he couldn't help but be astonished. A little stoic, aren't you the one who loves money the most? A gentleman loves wealth, but he obtains it in a proper way. The little fellow said coldly and stiffly, Who wants your inheritance? Keep it for yourself and pass it on to your disciples or children. Sir Holy Sun immediately put on a pure and proud expression. This Holy Sun serves my God with all my heart. So how can I have children? Arbor paused for a few seconds before saying, We've already destroyed your family shrine. The Holy Sun also fell silent. A moment later, everyone once again appeared on the scorched earth left behind by the shrine. Holy Sun Mi Yin didn't say anything with his back facing everyone. Everyone knew that he was naturally in a bad mood. After all, this was his homeland where he grew up, but now it had become like this. Chapter 32:20. No one spoke until about half an incense stick's worth of time had passed. Suddenly, several shouts were heard in the wind. Holy Sun, Lord Holy Sun. 2 priests and 3 temple guards put away their flying spirit beasts with a look of pleasant surprise and hurriedly ran over while gasping for breath. Holy Sun Mi Yin turned to look at them, his voice slightly weathered. The temple no longer exists. You can also leave on your own. He knew the background of these people very well. It was impossible for them to be related to a cult like the Heavenly Fate sect. The priests and guards looked at each other in dismay and hurriedly knelt down in front of Holy Sun Mi Yin. Wherever Holy Sun is, the temple will always exist. We are willing to follow Holy Sun. Holy Sun Mi Yin looked at them for a long time before saying, "You have followed them all the way, so you should also know. The temple master of the temple betrayed our faith, betrayed the gods, and turned to a cult called the Heavenly Fate sect. That's good too." Holy Sun Mi Yin slightly raised his head and looked at the scorching sun in the sky. He faintly smiled. "If we don't perish in the ashes, we will be reborn in the ashes. As long as you are here and I am supporting the temple, it will rise in the end." Yes. The priests and guards nodded one after another, joy of being reborn after a calamity in their eyes. The cry of flying spirit beasts came from the sky again. Everyone turned to look and saw that Yushio and Hidden Flower had returned. Upon seeing the 2 people's unsightly expressions, Emo Yin understood what had happened. He creased his brows and asked, "They ran away?" Yushio nodded. "I don't know if they were covered by the mountain." This subordinate and Hidden Flower searched the back of the mountain and didn't find any signs of living people. Emo Yin's handsome face was calm, and he muttered to himself for a moment before faintly nodding. "Let's go back to the academy first." Just now, the temple master of the temple had thrown out a signal before he died. Presumably, the Heavenly Fate sect would send people to check it out soon. It wasn't that he was afraid of them, but after being tossed around for so long, everyone was in a bit of a mess. He really didn't want to argue with them anymore. Besides, Jojo's face was still a bit pale. It was better to go back and recuperate first. The academy had Yin Piao Miao, this great Buddha, keeping watch. Even if the enemy came to attack, let Yin Piao Miao block it. Who asked him to be the dean? Principal Yin, who was drinking tea and reading at the misty peak of the royal school, suddenly sneezed and looked around with a puzzled expression. "Jojo," Emo Yin had just called out when he saw his wifey turning her head to face him with the back of her head. He cursed in his heart and hurried to her side. He reached out and pulled her into his arms. "Jojo, your husband swears that if we encounter any danger in the future, I won't let you run away alone. Duan Yu, Rotten Peach Blossom, and I will run with you. Let's run together and advance and retreat together, all right?" Holy Sun Mi Yin immediately came back to his senses and felt somewhat stifled by this display of affection. So it turned out that Prince Mo, Duan Yu, and the others had implicated her in the scolding from Sir Jojo just now. Sir Jojo was scolding him along with Prince Mo, Duan Yu, and the others. Why was he so unlucky? Sir Jojo expressionlessly glanced at that man. She should have flared up at the Red River Canyon, but after her body grew up, she inexplicably forgot about this matter. He let Sir Jojo run away, first every time they encountered danger. Wasn't this proof of his capability? Did he think Sir Jojo wouldn't get angry? Humph. Ignore him. Chapter 32:21. Prince Mo hastily shook his wifey's body and repeatedly sent Duan Yu a look. Duan Yu obediently stood on the side without moving. He didn't want to go up and get rebuked. This scoundrel. Prince Mo glared at Duan Yu with all his might before switching to a beaming expression at his wife. "Jojo, Duan Yu knows his mistake. Duan Yu, how could he be wrong? Weren't all these rotten ideas Mo Yin, that imbecile, the one who came up with them? For example, you take Jojo away, rotten peach blossom, and I will cover the rear. Wasn't that what he was trying to convey with his eyes? Why was he pushing the blame onto him now? It's all rotten peach blossom's fault for coming up with such rotten ideas. It was all his ideas time and time again. Thankfully, Emolien didn't make him the scapegoat in front of him. But how innocent was the venerable peach blossom immortal, just because he, little Tai Sui, and the others were still wandering around the temple to check out the terrain. He was used as a shield by Prince Mo Duan. You twitched his mouth and flashed Arbor's side. He said with a grin, "Jojo, let's go back. I'm a bit hungry." He should be hungry after all this time. It would have been fine if he didn't mention it, but now that he did, Sir Jojo also felt his stomach rumble. "If you two make eyes at each other again in the future, I dare you to throw me away." Sir Jojo harumphed and turned to roar at Emolien. "Don't keep making rotten peach blossom the scapegoat." Duan Yu blinked and glanced at Emolien. Emolien immediately rolled her eyes at him and grumpily said with her eyes, "Who the hell is making eyes at you? What are you two talking about now?" Sir Jojo abruptly turned around and grumpily looked at them with his large eyes. "No, nothing." Emolien quickly strode forward and pulled his wifey's hand. He said with a chuckle, "Duan Yu told me that he'll be roasting the colorful divine fish in a bit." The little stoic's eyes brightened slightly, and she feigned a reluctant expression. "All right, then let him do it. Originally, I wanted to grill it for you." She also felt that Duan Yu's roasted meat tasted better than hers. Emolien curled her lips, and Duan Yu looked at them exasperatedly. Soon, the venerable peach blossom immortal, little Tai Sui, and the others split up and returned. He said, "The surroundings have been cleaned up. Let's go." Holy Sun Mi uncovered his broken arm and looked back at the ruins. Then, he followed the crowd and jumped onto the back of the golden dragon. The group flew in the direction of the academy. After flying for nearly 2 hours, they left the vicinity of the temple. Only when they returned to the ruined Red River Canyon and entered the no-fly zone did they casually find a place to rest and get some food to fill their stomachs. After finishing their meal, they set off again. Arbor activated the teleportation array, found a general direction, and teleported to the royal school. In the evening, a man wearing a silver devil mask led a dozen of his trusted subordinates onto the scorched earth of the Sun-Moon Temple, which was now in ruins. Looking at everything before him, he couldn't help but sigh ruefully. Ruined, completely ruined. Truly a group of vicious and merciless people. Look at what the Sun-Moon Temple had become. Reporting to Hall Master, the rear mountain has been razed to the ground. The eyes of the trusted aide who came to report also flickered with disbelief. "Have you found the Hall Master's corpse?" The gold-masked Hall Master took a deep breath. When he opened his eyes again, a shrewd glint flitted across them. Broken dreams. Chapter 32-22. The Temple Master of the Sun-Moon Temple was dead. His life lantern hanging in the organization was completely extinguished at noon today. Thinking of a huge price they had spent on him, the Ghostface Hall Master had a headache. This was a peak immortal venerable that the organization had spent a lot of money to raise. How could he suddenly die like this? Something must have happened that he didn't know about. The Ghostface Hall Master looked coldly at the scorched earth in front of him. The temple surroundings had been burned to the point that its original appearance couldn't be seen. A few people who were sorting out the remains on the scorched earth would occasionally pick up 1 or 2 bones from the pile of ashes. The Ghostface Hall Master looked at everything with a cold expression. He took a deep breath and exhaled. He closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he said coldly, "No need to clean it up." He had already used his divine sense to scan the surroundings. There was no one alive, so there was no point in cleaning it up. "Hall Master, the way these people died is a bit strange." A black-clothed masked man approached him and said softly, "Their bones seem to have been gnawed by something. I can't find a single complete piece." The Ghostface Hall Master frowned slightly. "Let's go to the back of the mountain to take a look." The Ghostface Hall Master flicked his sleeves and led a dozen of his trusted subordinates toward the back of the mountain. He wouldn't have known if he didn't look, but when he did, even though the Ghostface Hall Master was a little wary, he still looked at the ruined mountain range in shock. The extent of the destruction here was simply beyond his expectations. Compared to the scorched earth of the temple, at least half of the mountain range that stretched for thousands of miles had sunk because of the earth's sinkhole. Inexplicably, the Ghostface Home Master thought of that expressionless face. Then he shook his head. Impossible. How could this little guy be so capable? Could it be that he could move mountains and break rivers? He didn't really become a god. The Ghostface Home Master thought for a while and secretly curled his lips. Then he ordered his subordinates, "Go search around and see if you can find the Temple Master's body." His body had been improved many times by drugs. Those drugs were unique things that could only be found by chance. Speaking of which, the Temple Master's body should be 10 times stronger than ordinary cultivators. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he had copper skin and iron bones. But such a person had died so suddenly. What was even stranger was that the life lantern left in the headquarters did not capture any useful information. This meant that when the Temple Master's body was destroyed, his soul was instantly and mercilessly destroyed. There was no time for the life lantern to record what had happened. When the Ghostface Home Master thought of this, he felt a little depressed. The Temple Master's body was still useful to him. It would be great if he could get it back. The Ghostface Home Master's trusted subordinates followed a vague aura and began to search around the entrance of the passageway. "Home Master," one of them called out. The Ghostface Home Master followed him and looked at the pitch-black pit with a complicated expression. The Holy Land's 9 stars killing array must have been activated. The Ghostface Home Master couldn't figure it out. The Holy Land was not a place that just any outsider could enter. That is to say, someone brought Arbor and the others here, and then this place became the burial place of the Temple Lord. Mien, Ghostface Home Master gritted his teeth. Maya must have brought them here. Chapter 32-23. If it weren't for Mien, no one would know the location of the temple's sacred ground. The black-clothed masked man next to Ghostface Home Master also said, "It must be Holy Sun Mi, Yin, who brought them here and even plotted to open the 9 stars fatal formation, killing the Temple Master of the temple. This person has opposed us time and time again. Hall Master, we definitely can't let him off." Ghostface Home Master glanced at him and said aloofly, "Then according to what you say, what should we do? How can we capture him and not let him off?" That person was clearly taken aback by the question. Presumably, he was just talking big and didn't actually think of a way to deal with Holy Sun Mi Yin. Ghostface Home Master couldn't help but sneer at him. "Do your own thing. You don't need to meddle in other matters." He didn't need this kind of flashy guy who only knew how to bootlick by his side. What he needed was someone who knew how to do things. Soon, Ghostface Home Master's dozen subordinates all returned to his side after checking the surroundings. "Hall Master, this mountain range has completely collapsed." A trusted aide who rushed over to report hastily said, "This subordinate has checked the surroundings and didn't find any trace of the Temple Master of the temple." Hearing this, the Ghostface Home Master nodded in understanding. In truth, he already had this worst-case scenario in his mind. It was just that he hadn't given up previously. It was also relatively difficult for the 9 stars fatal formation to instantly kill the Temple Master of the temple. What he was more curious about now was how did the Stoic Faces group possess the strength to annihilate a venerable at the peak of the immortal venerable realm in the blink of an eye without the slightest ability to resist. He suspected that this Stoic Face definitely had a secret. The little Stoic naturally had a gargantuan secret. When a little girl first came to the Divine Province, she once instantly traversed the void and wandered through the starry sky for a long time. At that time, the Danteon Star Domain had once taken in 3 spirit domains from the starry sky like bandits and formed 3 nameless stars. These 3 nameless stars had never been reclaimed from the beginning to the end. As always, there was nothing on them. That was why the little Stoic didn't hesitate to toss out one of them in the nick of time at the entrance of the Temple of the Gods' Holy Land's passageway, and had the little water child use it to kill the peak, immortal, venerable realm Temple Master of the Gods. Everything was just worldly possessions. Losing a nameless star could kill an extremely dangerous peak, immortal venerable realm cultivator, and even completely kill him. Even his soul force fragments would disappear from this world. To the little stoic, this was an extremely profitable transaction. On the other side, Chun Baojia had long frantically escaped from the tunnel entrance while the little stoics group was fighting the temple master of the temple. Later, when a mountain collapsed, she was buried by a few pieces of thick earth and rocks. Because she was buried deep, she was able to avoid the search of the hidden flower constellation. She didn't know that she had unintentionally escaped a calamity by burying herself in this mountain rock. 2 days later, she used all her spiritual power to dig her way out of the pile of rocks. The moment she saw the sun, she actually had the feeling of crying tears of joy. It was too difficult. She wanted to return to the capital immediately to talk to her father about this matter. The temple master of the Temple of the Gods had personally said that this stoic face actually had a spirit domain on him. A spirit domain was a land of heavenly fortune. It was usually buried among spiritual mountains and clear waters, and could only be encountered by chance. However, the stoic face actually had a spirit domain on him. Chapter 32:24. It had to be known that mystic cultivators could open their inner worlds on their own, which was already the envy of most normal people. A normal inner world was 3 to 5 cubic meters, and a larger one might be a dozen or so cubic meters. This was already pretty good. As for this stoic face, she actually had a portable spirit domain. Chun Baojia's breathing gradually became hurried. What kind of existence was a portable spirit domain? Chun Baojia actually wasn't sure, but she was certain that this portable spirit domain was definitely much larger than everyone's inner worlds. No wonder this stoic face could always pull out some strange things, and the number of Ling beasts around him was several times more than normal Xiuzha. Could it be that she hid these things in this portable spirit domain? If she could obtain this portable spirit domain, Chun Baojia's complexion became abnormally flushed, and her breathing became increasingly heavy. Heavens, she was about to go crazy with jealousy. How could there be someone with such exceptional luck in this world? Chun Baojia crawled out of the mound with disheveled hair and a dirty face and walked unsteadily on the rubble ruins. Looking at the desolate scene in front of her, she really couldn't describe the feeling in her heart. Was she excited to discover the little stoic's secret? Or was she angry to discover that she was the only one left in this place? She, Chun Baojia, had worked hard to follow the team to the Sun-Moon Mystery Realm to search for treasures. But in the end, she didn't even see a single strand of treasure. Instead, she was so poor that she was almost buried under the mountain and almost couldn't get out. It was truly infuriating to compare oneself to others. At this time, Chun Baojia suspiciously felt that Arbor definitely obtained some benefits from the Sun-Moon Mystery Realm. Otherwise, why would the Sun-Moon Mystery Realm suddenly collapse? It must be because Arbor took too many treasures from inside, causing the spirit energy that was enough to support the Mystery Realm to suddenly decrease, causing the entire Mystery Realm to collapse and be destroyed. It had to be said that Chun Baojia's suspicions were somewhat on point. Xiao Mu had taken everything in the Sun-Moon Mystery Realm. She hadn't taken too much, as Chun Baojia had thought. Chun Baojia walked on a barren mountaintop, her heart filled with apprehension as she walked. As far as her eyes could see, this place had inexplicably become a concave valley. There were rugged rocks everywhere, and she couldn't find a proper path. She coughed a few times and raised her hand to wipe her messy gray hair. Just as she was about to release her spirit beast, she heard a laugh coming from behind her, which immediately made her hair stand on end. Sister Baojia, what a coincidence! Bashu jumped down from the flying beast and ran forward with a smile. He hugged Chun Baojia's body and his eyes flashed. Chun Baojia didn't look like a pretty girl at this moment. In fact, at this time, Chun Baojia was not only dirty, but her hair was also drooping on her forehead. She looked no better than a beggar on the street. However, thinking of her enchanting figure, Bashu didn't dislike her appearance at this time. He put his arms around her waist and said with a smile, "Sister Baojia, You see, we are quite fated to meet each other. How about it? Why don't you accompany big brother, Ba Shu, home? You don't have anything to do anyway. Chen Baojia was shocked. She struggled violently and exclaimed, what are you doing? This person was like a big-head fly, buzzing around her all day long. She was really annoyed to death. However, his cultivation level was higher than hers, so resistance was futile. Chapter 32-25. What can I do, little sister Baojia? Ba Shu chuckled and hugged her waist. His smile was wretched. Didn't I just invite you to my house to play? Chen Baojia's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. She did not expect Ba Shu to be so daring as to do this in broad daylight. No, I can't. Chen Baojia forced a smile at him. I still have to return to Dragonflame City. My father is still at home, waiting for me to come back. I'll go back and tell him about this trip. Ba Shu suddenly hugged her waist and lifted her up. He flew onto his flying beast and laughed. No hurry, little sister Baojia. Look at how dirty you are now. Let's go. I'll take you to find a place to wash up. Chen Baojia was anxious, angry, embarrassed, and annoyed. She pounded Ba Shu's shoulders with her fists and said sternly, How dare you be so impudent to me? My father will not let you off. Ba Shu was not frightened by her harsh words and expression. He laughed and said, Don't worry. When we become a family, there won't be so many disputes. Ha ha. Chen Baojia was so angry that she almost fainted. She screamed, Who's your family? He was really a barbarian. Chen Baojia was extremely anxious. She watched as she was brought onto that person's flying beast, and they flew off in an unknown direction. At first, Chen Baojia thought that Ba Shu was joking with her. After flying for a long time, her heart sank bit by bit. Looking at Ba Shu's appearance, was he really going to kidnap her? What should she do? She had to calm down. Calm down. Chen Baojia kept repeating in her heart, but her mind could only stay clear for a moment. When Ba Shu brought her away from the back mountain of the temple, he forced a sleeping pill on her to prevent her from trying to escape these days. Xiao Mu's time in the academy could be considered comfortable. No one was looking for trouble, so Sir Jojo was more at ease. When he had nothing to do, he went into seclusion to cultivate. He summoned the Thunder Sword from his conscious and trained with it for a period of time. After a few days, when things had settled down, everyone realized that Tianyun did not take the opportunity to attack the royal school. It was probably because Yun Piamiao was in charge of the academy. Arbor and the others waited for another 2 days and found that nothing had happened. They went to the dean at the same time to ask for leave, planning to return to Dragonflame City the next day. Mu Mansion, Eldest Miss is back. Eldest Miss is back. The servants' cheerful voices drifted into Mu Qingya's gilded garden. Mu Qingya was stunned when she heard this. She quickly put down the cup in her hand and walked to the door with a smile. Xian, why are you back so early? Mu Rochuan stepped through the door with a cold face and clenched her fists. Mu Qingya looked behind her. Xian, where's your older brother? Don't mention him. Mu Rochuan roared furiously, scaring the maids to lower their heads. Mu Qingya's expression changed slightly, and she turned to look at Nanny Qiu. Qiu Mama hurriedly understood and waved her hand, allowing the servants in the room to withdraw one by one. Xian, what's wrong with you? How can you treat your older brother like this? Mu Qingya said with a displeased expression. He's not my older brother. He's Arbor's older brother. Mu Rochuan shouted angrily. Mother, do you know how he treated me in the mystic realm? It was quite a busy day today. The fourth night watch would continue tomorrow. Chapter 32-26. Mu Qingya's face darkened as she looked at Mu Rochuan with displeasure. Xian, is there some misunderstanding between you and your older brother? Don't keep harping on our family's mistakes. If there's a misunderstanding, it's better to resolve it. Mother, you're always like this. Mu Rochuan shouted angrily. Whenever there's a conflict between Big Brother and me, you always say that it's my fault and tell me not to bicker with him. I really don't understand. Who exactly is your biological child? Mother, am I your biological daughter or not? Mu Rochuan screamed angrily as she swept a set of fine white tea sets onto the floor with a clang. Mu Qingyao's chest hurt from her daughter's insensibility. She took a few steps back and sat down on the brocade couch. Nanny Chiu hurried forward to support her. Madam, eldest miss, what are you doing? Madam is doing this for you. What good is it for eldest miss to offend eldest young master? Nanny Chiu glanced at Mu Rochuan and shook her head. Eldest miss, look at how angry Madam is because of you. Has it been easy for Madam all these years? While managing the family, she also has to do her best to plan for eldest Miss's future. Who else could Madam be doing this for? How could eldest Miss say such heart-wrenching words to Madam? Mu Rochuan was feeling a bit regretful, but when she saw that her mother's words were all about protecting her older brother, she couldn't help but feel angry. Big brother didn't care if I lived or died in the mystic realm. Mu Rochuan pulled open her collar slightly and showed her mother the hideous scar on her chest. The scar left a scorched mark, and it was obvious that it had been struck by lightning. I was seriously injured in Du Chunjiang, but Big Brother still didn't help me. Right now, all he can think about right now is that little witch. That witch came back to seduce people. Slap. Mu Qingya slapped Mu Rochuan's face heavily. She was so angry that her entire body trembled. Her chest heaved up and down, and her voice trembled. Evil girl. One of them is your older brother, and the other is your younger sister. How could you say such things? What nonsense are you talking about? Let her continue. A deep voice came from outside the door. Mu Jingfeng stepped through the door, his face filled with cold fury. Big Brother didn't care about my life or death in the secret realm at all. Right now, he only had eyes for that little demoness. Father, that demoness is a great disaster. She really knows people from the cult. Father, you don't know, but when we were in the Red River Canyon, that evil cult's home master specifically asked her to come out and meet him. She's a real scourge. Sooner or later, our whole family will be killed by her. Shut up. Mu Qingya was so angry that she was half lying on the couch. She reached out to touch her chest and pointed at Mu Rochuan as she cried out in a trembling voice. How did I give birth to a daughter like you who can't tell right from wrong? Master, don't listen to her nonsense. What cult member? Mu Jingfeng suspiciously glanced at Mu Rochuan. Speak clearly. Father, do you still remember Xiaoxing who turned into a zombie in our backyard? Back then, there was such a huge uproar because of her matter. Concubine Sure was even punished and her legs were crippled. But did you know? This time, we encountered that evil cult on our way to the Sun-Moon mystic realm. Chapter 32:27. They're the evil cult that creates monsters, and the little witch actually knows them. Shinner, don't spout nonsense in front of your father and slander your sister's reputation. Mu Qingya was truly anxious. She signaled Nanny Chiu to bring people over to shut Mu Rochuan's mouth. Let her continue. Mu Jingfeng roared and stopped Mu Qingya's actions. There's nothing that can't be said. Since she can do it, why would she be afraid of others talking about it? Husband. Mu Qingya hurriedly propped herself up from the couch and panted. How could Jojo be such a person? How could she be involved with that evil cult? The Holy Nun is absolutely right. She's the source of disaster. She definitely has connections with those people from the evil cult. Mu Rochuan sternly interrupted her mother. Otherwise, why didn't the evil cult's ghost-face home master talk to her in the Red River Canyon? I don't believe that they don't know each other at all. Shut up. Mu Qingya was so angry that her face flushed red. She raised her hand and pretended to slap Mu Rochuan. What nonsense are you spouting in front of your father? How did I raise such a daughter who can't distinguish right from wrong? Think about it. With Jojo's identity, does she need to be related to that evil cult? Mu Qingya's expression was furious. Can you use your brain and think properly? How did she raise such a stupid daughter? She wasn't like her at all. Mu Qingya's heart felt tired as she looked at her daughter in disappointment. She knows that the organization is called Heavenly Fate. Mu Rochuan straightened her neck and said loudly, "What's so strange about that?" Mu Qingya propped herself up and reprimanded angrily. Which of the great aristocratic families doesn't know the words heavenly fate? Even someone like me, who doesn't cultivate, has heard people talk about this evil cult that wants to cause chaos in the world. As the crown princess with a high status, how could she not know this? Mu Jingfeng's eyes flickered, but he still asked with a cold face, she and her other than knowing the hall master of Tianyun. Did she do anything out of line? That's right. Did you gain anything from your trip to the Sun-Moon Mystery Realm? Mu Jingfeng's eyes flashed again. He was looking forward to the Sun-Moon Mystery Realm. It was said that in that secret realm, one could casually grab a handful of spirit tools and medicinal pills, and they could be found all over the floor. Who knew if that was true? If Roxian had brought something back, he could have her consecrate a portion of it to show filial piety to her father. Mu Roxuan's expression became very ugly and strange. I didn't get anything. Nothing. Even the secret realm has collapsed. How is that possible? Mu Jingfeng's expression instantly darkened. He looked at his daughter with a scrutinizing gaze, thinking that his daughter was being stingy and unwilling to take out the treasure she had obtained. She must have wanted to keep it for herself, so she came up with such a big lie. Mu Jingfeng looked at her coldly. He used to think that this daughter was a good person. Compared to that troublesome and rebellious girl in Arbor, she was many times better. But now, it seemed that she wasn't all that great. Mu Qingyao's heart thumped. She hurriedly stood up and gently advised Mu Roxuan, Xian if you obtained a lot of things in the secret realm, let your father have a look. Some treasures might not be suitable for you female cultivators to cultivate. Chapter 32:28. A trace of mockery flashed through Mu Roxuan's eyes. Only now did she realize that this mother of hers was truly virtuous. It was fine if she obeyed her father's every word, but even her daughter had to be subservient. She had never heard of a father who wanted something from his daughter. He really was a good father. If she had really narrowly escaped death and obtained a treasure from the mystic realm, shouldn't she still contribute it to her father? How laughable. This was her father. There are no treasures. There are no elixirs. Nothing at all. Mu Roxuan coldly said. Before Mu Jingfeng could get angry, she indifferently said, whether you believe it or not, the mystic realm collapsed. I escaped from the mystic realm on the brink of death, Mu Roxuan coldly said. Mu Roxuan coldly said, after running for a long time in the back mountain of the Sun-Moon Divine Hall, I finally managed to escape capture. Mu Jingfeng inexplicably stared at this daughter in front of him, as if trying to discern a trace of truth from her eyes. He didn't believe her. Her father didn't believe his own daughter. He still felt that she was hiding something and didn't tell the truth. Mu Roxuan didn't know if she felt more bitter or more indignant. Before returning from Arbor, she had always felt that she was living a good life. She had an upright father, a loving mother, and a handsome big brother who only treated her well. But now, everything seemed to have changed. Her father became more and more repulsive. He was so short-sighted that he actually stared at such a small item in his daughter's pocket. And her mother? She didn't distinguish right from wrong and only wanted to maintain the peace and tranquility of this family on the surface. She just had to force her to marry someone she didn't like and coexist peacefully with someone she didn't like. She deceived herself to the point of ridicule. Big Brother? Speaking of Big Brother was even more heartbreaking. It seemed that he only had that demoness in his heart. Was this still the happy and harmonious family from before? It had completely changed. Mu Roxuan was both sad and angry. She flung her sleeves and strode outside. Every word I said is the truth. The mystic realm collapsed, and we didn't get anything. If someone really obtained something, then it must be your other good daughter, Arbor. Mu Roxuan's lips curled up in ridicule. If you want it, ask her. Stop. Mu Jingfeng was also enraged. He glared at Mu Roxuan's back and scolded. Is this how you speak to your father? Come back and make things clear. What do you mean by Arbor got something? Her cultivation isn't even as high as yours. How come she got it, and you didn't? Mu Roxian abruptly turned her head and laughed maniacally at her parents. Her cultivation is inferior to mine? Not as good as me? Ha ha ha. You've all been deceived by her. She was a damn liar, a stinky witch. She can even draw a teleportation talisman array. Do you think her cultivation level is lower than mine? Ha 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 ha. After saying that, she saw a trace of fanatical joy in Mu Jingfeng's eyes. Mu Rochuan's heart felt increasingly bitter and uneasy as she silently spurned herself. Who asked you to be so talkative? Who asked you to tell others? Now, everyone in the Mu family, including her parents, would definitely pay more attention to Arbor. Her palms tightly clenched into fists as she repeatedly told herself in her heart, perhaps she died. Perhaps she already died in that mystic realm. After all, an earthquake had occurred in the entire back mountain of the Sun Moon Temple. Perhaps she was already buried in the back mountain, crushed to death by the rocks in the abyss. She better not come back. Chapter 32:29. Xian'er. Mu Jingfeng seemed to have realized that his previous attitude was not very good. So he hurriedly smiled, placatingly, and deliberately put on the appearance of a loving father. Since you say so, father will naturally believe you. He gazed lovingly at Mu Rochuan, but the latter inexplicably felt very uncomfortable when she saw his sudden change in expression after what had just happened. Mu Jingfeng continued to look at his daughter with a smile and said, "Oh, right, your grandfather's birthday is coming up soon. Properly prepare a gift and don't embarrass our eldest branch." Every year, the Mu family's old master's birthday was the highlight. In order to please the old master, each branch would use all sorts of methods and come up with all sorts of clever schemes. Mu Jingfeng still felt a little indignant that the second branch's birthday gift was overshadowed by the pine bamboo mechanism diagram last year. And you, find out what gifts each branch is preparing as soon as possible. Don't mess things up again. Mu Qingyan nodded repeatedly and softly said, okay. Actually, she had already sent people to find out these few days and planned to tell Mu Jingfeng about it in 2 days. Father, mother, if there's nothing else, this daughter will take her leave first. Mu Rochuan bowed and left without looking back. Look at how well you've taught your daughter. Mu Jingfeng could not help but feel angry when he saw her attitude. In the past, he had Arbor, that rebellious daughter, to annoy him, but now, even Xian'er was disobedient. It was truly infuriating. Mu Rochuan hurriedly comforted him gently. Old master, Xian'er narrowly escaped from the mystic realm and did not obtain anything. She's probably in a bad mood. Old master, don't lower yourself to her level. She's a girl and has shallow knowledge. She likes to think about herself first and haggles over minor matters. Actually, how would she know that going to the mystic realm to train is a very rare opportunity in itself? It's good to obtain treasures, but if she has no fate with them, she can only blame her shallow fortune. Old master is very knowledgeable, so there's no need to lower yourself to her level. After she hits a wall everywhere, she'll naturally know how good the Mu family is. Only then will she understand that she can only be better if the family is better. Mu Jingfeng was very pleased with her words, and his complexion gradually improved. Mu Qingya invited him to sit down and personally served him tea and pastries. She said softly, "Master, the crown prince and the crown princess wedding is near, so they will definitely return to the capital." Mu Qingya sat beside Mu Jingfeng and asked gently, "Husband, should we send someone to invite them home for a short stay? Seeing that old master's birthday is coming soon, old madam must be looking for a chance to meet her granddaughter." Mu Jingfeng frowned, but when he recalled what Mu Rochuan had said earlier, a glint flashed across his eyes. Arbor could draw teleportation rune arrays. He didn't know if this was true or not, so he had to test it out. He nodded and patted the back of Mu Qingya's hand in satisfaction. "Thank you for your hard work. Go do it." If the crown princess and the crown prince came back to live with the first branch at this time, the first branch would have the support of the two of them at the old master's birthday banquet. They would definitely have the upper hand over the others. Thinking of those troublesome brothers of his, Mu Jingfeng felt vexed. "Crown princess, and I Chang Market's Bu Nyang has arrived." Kai Chi ran in with a grin from the Eastern Palace's small reception pavilion and bowed. The little crown princess unhappily waved her small hand. Not going to try, not going to try. It hadn't even been half a day since she came back, but just trying on clothes was annoying her to death. Chapter 32:30. This servant's young crown prince consort. This old servant just had this gown redone at noon. How can you not try it on? Following this cheerful voice was a gust of fragrant wind that assaulted their nostrils. Achoo, achoo. The little crown princess sneezed twice with a blank face, then covered her nose with an unfriendly expression as she looked at Sun Yang, the middle-aged woman with a graceful figure. The woman was wearing a bright red dress with butterfly sleeves and a narrow waist, painted in red and green, making her look very coquettish. As soon as she entered the door, she wanted to pull the little crown princess's clothes, but the little crown princess expressionlessly slapped her hand away. "Why did you change the powder again?" Bu Ernyang said with a little grievance. "Didn't you say that the fragrance in the morning was bad?" Achoo! The little crown princess covered her nose and took a few steps back. "But your smell is even worse. So fragrant. Where is the smell?" Bu Ernyang raised her arm and sniffed her own body, then showed an intoxicated expression. "It smells so good." Jojo looked at her expressionlessly and took a few steps back. Bu Ernyang immediately said with dissatisfaction, "Little crown princess, I bought this powder from the fragrance shop. That's 1 or 2,000 gold." The little crown princess raised her eyebrows and looked at her noncommittally. "It doesn't smell good. Can't you smell that pungent smell?" Bu Ernyang shook her head with a confused expression. "Can't smell it." At this time, Aunt Jing bowed and said, "Crown Princess, the Mu family's first madam sent a letter outside the palace, asking to see you." The little crown princess was slightly surprised, then looked at Bu Ernyang, who was sniffing her sleeve. "This woman is really wretched. I don't have time now. Let her go back." Arbor said lightly. "She came back less than half a day, and the Mu family sent someone here. The news is really fast." Bu Ernyang. "Hey, little crown princess, what orders do you have?" Bu Ernyang heard her call out and quickly came up with a smile. "Achoo!" The little crown princess pushed her face away and said with a serious face, "Go and wash the smell off your body. I will give you a new fragrance." She heard that the little crown princess was good at business, but she didn't expect her to do business with Bu Ernyang. Bu Ernyang was curious, but obediently went to wash the fragrance off her body. After the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, the young crown prince consort felt that this fellow was much more pleasing to the eye. Not only was the color on her face, the smell on her body also became clean and refreshing. The young crown prince consort took out a small box from her inner world and handed it to her. "Try it." Opening the box, there was a silk handkerchief inside. The silk handkerchief was a very good quality silk handkerchief, but the corner of the silk handkerchief was embroidered with a crooked black lotus, which looked particularly ugly. She didn't know what kind of taste the little crown princess had, but few people would embroider such an ugly lotus on such a high-quality silk handkerchief. The little crown princess saw her standing there in a daze, so she reached out and took out the silk handkerchief from the box. With a shake of her little hand, she held the silk handkerchief in front of Bu Ernyang. Bu Ernyang immediately smelled a faint fragrance that assaulted her senses. That smell, while making people feel refreshed, it was also indescribably quiet and indifferent, like the evening breeze blowing on the face, making her unable to help but take a deep breath. Chapter 32:31. The young crown princess expressionlessly put the silk handkerchief back and said dryly, "This smell can probably last for 3 days. What do you think?" Bu Ernyang was intoxicated and carried the wooden box in the young crown princess's hands. "Thank you, crown princess, for bestowing this gift. This smell is really too good." The 2 maidservants from Nikhang Market also nodded repeatedly to express their approval. The little stoic slapped Bu Ernyang's hands away and put the silk handkerchief back into the small wooden box. She closed the box and put it back in her inner world. "This is the first handkerchief I personally embroidered." Arbor pursed his lips and said, "I didn't say I was giving it to you." How could Sir Jojo give such a meaningful handkerchief embroidered to someone else? When she finished embroidering it, her husband even praised it for its beauty, saying that the lotus flower at the corner was embroidered according to his original design and was especially exquisite and brilliant, a work of art surpassing the heavens. Although Sir Jojo knew that her husband was lying through his teeth, her husband still praised Sir Jojo. Bu Ernyang stared dumbfoundedly at the young crown princess in front of her. No, that wasn't it. The young crown princess was toying with her. She just let her brush this powdered handkerchief for a look and then took it back. Our precious painting workshop has orders, the young crown princess continued expressionlessly. Bring your own embroidered handkerchief. You only need to dye it with fragrance. It's 10,000 spirit coins for one. Dye it with fragrance and buy the embroidered handkerchief. It's 18,000 spirit coins for one, and it also comes with a beautifying pill with a 3-day effect. Bu Ernyang was instantly even more dumbfounded. Was the young crown princess promoting her shop's products? Was that right? But I'm tailoring a dress for the crown princess. It's only 50 to 50,000 spirit coins. When the young crown princess heard this, she immediately revealed a disdainful expression. You're really expensive. It wasn't a defensive spiritual garment, yet a wedding dress was actually sold for the astronomical price of 50,000 spirit coins. Her husband had found Nikhang Market and said it was the best garment workshop in the Divine Continent. As expected, the price was also astronomical. If that wasn't the case, he could have directly ordered the Imperial Palace's production department to prepare the wedding dress. Me? Bu Ernyang opened her mouth. Was she expensive? It wasn't easy for her to earn 50,000 spirit coins. She had to work overtime with all the embroiderers in the Nichang market. The little crown princess glanced at her silently. Have you settled the 50,000 spirit coins? Bu Ernyang nodded her head. Husband gave you money? The young crown prince consort's voice suddenly rose a little. Eunuch Chun, who was standing at the side like a wooden block, heard this and subconsciously twitched his mouth. Bu Ernyang nodded, but then she thought of something and quickly shook her head. No. His Highness the Crown Prince gave me an IOU and told me to ask the great emperor for money. This son of mine, the young crown prince consort, blinked her eyes. She wanted to laugh out loud on the inside, but her expression remained impassive and expressionless. Her husband was really interesting. She wondered what kind of expression his father would have when he received the IOU. Suddenly, he felt a little sorry for his father. This son of mine, wherever he went, he would cheat his father. In the past, he was used to cheating the old great king of the Mo Kingdom. Not long after returning to the Divine Continent, he began his daily routine of cheating the great emperor. Do you want to buy it? I want to buy it. Bu Ernyang nodded repeatedly. Is it the precious painting workshop? The little crown princess nodded. Our precious painting workshop sells all kinds of jewelry and accessories. We also sell spices and beauty products. It's okay. You can go shopping and improve your eyesight. Chapter 32. Throw away all those cheap fragrances and beauty creams that you have on you. Arbor curled his small mouth and said, It smells so bad. It must be hard for you to endure it all day long. Bu Ernyang pitifully turned her head and looked at Arbor. Can you give me a discount, Crown Princess? Your 18,000 spirit coins are too expensive. Sir Jojo rolled his eyes. Good stuff doesn't get a discount. But the two maids at the side couldn't help but burst out laughing. Bu Ernyang suddenly felt that these words were very familiar. Wasn't this what she often said? It's really the cycle of heaven and retribution. Woo at the same time. A group of people from Mu Estate were anxiously waiting outside the palace, standing by the side of the road and looking in the direction of the palace gate from time to time. After the vermilion lacquered small side door opened inwardly, a young eunuch with delicate features quickly walked out. Young eunuch, did the Eastern Palace reply? Mu Qingyao hurriedly walked forward and asked. The young eunuch faintly nodded at her. Please go back. The one in the Eastern Palace is very busy today. Mu Qingyao was startled and quickly pulled on the young eunuch's sleeve. Young eunuch, I don't know if you can help me pass on a message. Tell the crown princess that there's an important matter at home, and I want to see the crown princess." As she spoke, she stuffed a bulging bag of things into the young eunuch's hand. The young eunuch used his hand to feel the weight of the bag of spirit coins, feeling a bit more satisfied, and the expression on his face also eased a lot. "It's not that I don't want to pass on the message, but that one's temper. You should also be clear. He's a man of his word." The young eunuch secretly pointed in the direction of the Eastern Palace and whispered, "Seeing that it's not easy for you, I'll give you a reminder. Those two just came back this morning. The people from Chong Market came back in the morning, and in the afternoon, they should be busy with the wedding dress. Madam, it's best if you come back tomorrow at noon. At that time, His Highness will return to the palace for lunch. If that person is in a good mood, she might see you." Mu Qingya sighed and thought that the little eunuch was quite honest. She nodded and thanked him again before getting into the carriage to return home. Chiu Mama and Song Lu were accompanying her at the bottom of the carriage. At this time, seeing that Madam's face was a little tired, Song Lu couldn't help but say, "Madam, the crown princess is not putting the Mu family in her eyes at all." Mu Qingya glanced at her indifferently. "She's the crown princess, the wife of the crown prince of Shenzhou. Although the Mu family is a big aristocratic family, with her status, it's up to her whether she respects us or not." Hearing the helplessness in the eldest madam's words, Song Lu felt even more dissatisfied. But she is still the daughter of the Mu family. How can she be so ignorant of the ways of the world? Madam is the eldest madam of the Mu family's eldest branch after all. How can she ignore you like this? After all was said and done, it was because her madam's temper was too good. Otherwise, how could that little stoic be so arrogant? Chiu Mama glared at her. "What nonsense are you spouting? Are you instigating Madam to fight with the crown princess? That's enough. Let Madam have a good rest." From yesterday's eldest Mrs. sudden return to cause a ruckus to today's afternoon of waiting for the little crown princess to summon her, Madam had been as busy as a spinning top for the past 2 days. It was truly too hard and too tiring for her to rest. Mu Qingya was indeed too tired. Chapter 32-33. As a normal person, her body was naturally not as sturdy as a cultivator's. On the carriage ride back, she took a short nap and only felt a bit better when she arrived at the Mu estate's entrance. Not long after she returned to Gilded Garden, she heard that concubine Yuan had come over with her child and was wailing nonstop at the entrance. Mu Qingya really didn't have the patience to talk to her, so she sent Nanny Chiu out to inquire about the situation and sent Yuan Xiong away. The Mu family's eldest branch was in a state of chaos every day, but the little crown princess lived peacefully. When Prince Imo returned to the Eastern Palace in the evening's afterglow, he happened to see Bu Ernyang walking out with a long face after packing her clothes. "Greetings, Your Highness the Crown Prince." Bu Ernyang hurriedly squeezed out a smile and curtsied to Prince Imo. Imo Lien nodded and walked past her without consulting anyone. He then turned to look at Bu Ernyang walking out with a long face and asked Hui Feng, who was following behind him, in bewilderment, "Did she take the wrong medicine?" Hui Feng's mouth twitched. He had been by His Highness the Crown Prince's side the entire day, so he naturally didn't know what happened to Bu Ernyang. Imo Lien only found it a bit comical. Before going to the Sun-Moon Mystery Realm, when he had Bu Ernyang cut Jojo's clothes, she was still smiling like a Methria Buddha all day long and looked at him as if she was looking at a running golden pig. What was wrong with her today? She had a long face and looked as if she had lost her parents. It was completely different from her usual style. The Crown Prince strode into the inner hall and heard Sir Jojo call out crisply, "Hubby." Prince Mo's gloomy mood, which he had been suppressing in the old man's imperial study for the entire afternoon, instantly dissipated. He quickly walked over and pulled the little one into his arms. "Jojo, I feel like I haven't seen you in a year and a half." Half a day had been too long. Lady Chow Chow blinked her eyes and then reached out to pinch his chin. "Husband, we even had lunch together." Speaking of this, Great Emperor Lunch felt very stifled. This son of his had to go back to the Eastern Palace to have lunch. He even said that he was having lunch with his wife. Didn't he think about his father? Couldn't he set aside some time to have lunch with his father? I don't care. I just feel like I haven't seen you for a year. Mo Yin rubbed her body and smiled. What happened to Bu Enyang? You look like you lost your father. Jin Xiao couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. Your Highness, it's not that your father is gone. It's that your money is gone. Our crown princess gave Bu Enyang several new beauty products. Bu Enyang ordered a lot of them. Tomorrow, she will go to Zhan Huafeng to pay the bill. When the crown prince heard this, he was amused. His wife really knew how to stir up trouble. Look, while earning a wedding dress, she also sold a lot of good stuff to Bu Enyang. How much? The crown prince asked excitedly. A total of 88,000 spirit coins. Jin Xiao couldn't help but burst into laughter when she said this. When Bu Enyang heard the total price, she looked like she had lost her father. So to say, this Bu Enyang did this wedding dress business and spent more than 30,000 spirit coins. No wonder she looked so sullen. Crown Prince Mo guffawed and lifted his wifey into his arms. Wifey, you're too awesome. Sir Jojo tilted her head and rubbed her head against his hair. She sweetly called out, Hubby. Suddenly, His Majesty has arrived. Tomorrow, the fourth watch will continue. Chapter 32-34. The great emperor's sudden appearance caused the little eunuchs guarding the eastern palace to be thrown into chaos. Just as they were about to pass the message, Mo Lushing waved at them impatiently and strode in with his hands behind his back. However, the moment he walked in, he saw a heart-wrenching scene. Prince Mo was hugging his little wife. Lady Xiao was hanging onto his body. Public morals were degenerating day by day. It was an eyesore in broad daylight. When Mo Lusheng strode in, the young couple turned to look at him, their gazes revealing a strange look. Your father is here. Lord Si Xiao jumped down from his body and landed on the ground, glancing at the great emperor. Prince Mo felt that his father was a little annoying. Didn't he just leave the imperial study? Why'd he follow him here again? Couldn't he just let him and his wife get along well? The great emperor saw that his son's face was dark, as if he didn't want to see him. He snorted with his hands behind his back. What's with that expression? You don't want to see your father? Prince Mo muttered softly. What did you say? Mo Lusheng turned to glare at his son. Prince Mo stepped forward and bowed. Your son said, you came at the right time. My wife and I were just about to eat. Since you're here, let's eat together. This troublemaker of son, he finally said something reasonable. Mo Lusheng nodded in satisfaction. Pass the meal. Prince Mo and Sir Jojo looked at each other, then walked hand in hand to the side hall's dining hall. Today, His Majesty was eating in the Eastern Palace. The little eunuchs and palace maids below were especially busy. The dishes flowed in like water. When the three of them entered, the dishes had already been placed on the table. Mo Lusheng looked at the little couple holding hands from start to finish and felt that it was a little painful to the eyes. He coughed and said, How was your experience in the mystic realm? Did you encounter any danger? Prince Mo shook his head. It felt pretty good. Mo Lusheng put down his chopsticks and secretly twitched the corner of his mouth. Cough. But why did we hear that your trip this time is full of danger? Mo Lusheng looked at his son and asked, Did you encounter danger all the way from Du Chunjiang to Red River Canyon? Is there anything wrong? You can see that we're still in high spirits, and we're not missing any limbs. You can tell that we're fine. Prince Mo secretly rolled his eyes and then said, But father, my wife has suffered a lot along the way. Do you want to open a storehouse or something to nourish her body? Mo Lusheng, how dare you say that? As a father, he was more tired than anyone else. Just because the crown prince was squandering, he had to follow behind and pay the bills. Which crown prince would be like him? Acting recklessly and in a complete mess. The more Mo Lusheng thought about it, the more he was about to blow his beard and glare. The little stoic bluntly glared back at the emperor and said crisply, You're not allowed to glare at Jojo's lotus. Mo Lusheng. Mo Yin was overjoyed. He leaned closer to his wife and picked up a piece of fish for her. Jojo eat. Mo Lusheng felt even more stifled. This son treated his wife 100 times better than his father. We encountered Heavenly Fate's people at Red River Canyon. Sir Jojo glanced at Mo Lusheng and said, "It looks like Heavenly Fate is about to take action. You have to make preparations as soon as possible." Prince Mo nodded repeatedly on the side, completely agreeing with his wife's words. Although we eliminated the temple's forces, Heavenly Fate, this underground organization, has probably developed for several hundred years. Chapter 32-35. Its hidden forces are very intricate, and many of them aren't easy to unearth, Prince Mo said seriously. "Have you considered what I said to Father this afternoon?" Mo Yoshing's expression also became slightly more serious. "The transfer orders have already been issued. From tomorrow onwards, all the fortifications will be stepped up." Mo Lusheng paused before asking, "Do you think this place will be like Seekong Planet in the Lower Star Domain, becoming chaotic because of the sudden outbreak of zombies?" Mo Lien nodded. "This will happen sooner or later. No matter what, we have to make preparations early. Watchtowers must be set up in all the cities, and people must be stationed day and night. Once a flying beast of unknown origin appears, it must be shot down immediately." Mo Lien glanced at Mo Lusheng and said, "When the zombies on Seekong Planet broke out, they relied on nightcaw birds to spread the disease." Mo Lusheng nodded with a serious expression, indicating that he had already taken the Crown Prince's words to heart. "Hubby," Sir Jojo picked up a piece of meat for her. "The food is cold." Mo Lien glanced at her with a smile, then patted her little head. Let's talk after eating." Because of his son's words, Mo Yoshing's mood was a bit heavy, so he was a bit absent-minded while eating. But when he took the first bite of rice, he returned to his senses and looked down at the white jade porcelain bowl in his hands with slight surprise. The rice grains inside were plump and sparkling, and the chubby appearance was adorable. Could this be the holy rice that is all the rage in the capital now? He had heard of the special product that Kaidai Veranda fought over. Lady Jojo held her bowl of rice and nodded her small head. Mo Lusheng took 2 more bites, feeling a bit surprised, but he didn't show it on his face. "We heard that the Kaidai Veranda you manage is now full of customers every day, and you still need to make reservations early to be able to get a seat. Recently, your holy rice has been auctioned off for 180,000 yuan per bowl." When the emperor thought of this, he felt that his wife must be filthy rich. He was already so rich, but this shameless couple still came to scam him often. Lady Qiao Qiao expressionlessly looked at the great emperor. "The bowl in your hand is a special offering among special offerings. It's the best holy rice. I won't sell it if it's not at least 500,000 yuan per bowl." The little stoic pursed her lips. The holy rice in the emperor's hands was not only watered with holy water, but it was also grown with the power of holy wood and cooked with holy fire. Regardless of whether it was the texture or the power contained within, it was incomparable to the one sold outside. The great emperor went from small bites to big bites. Then he gracefully put down his bowl and chopsticks and called out, "Hu De Quan." Eunuch who quickly ran in from outside and bowed to them with a smile. "Your Majesty, do you have any orders? Pack a bag of holy rice and bring it back. Have the small kitchen cook a bowl for me every day." Eunuch who looked dumbfoundedly at the little crown princess who was expressionless. Crown Prince Mo blinked before abruptly saying, "Then you have to give my wife the right to enter and exit the precious herb garden." This little brat really wasn't someone who could take a loss. Mo Lusheng thought, and then he rolled his eyes. "That won't do. There's so many good things in the herb garden. What if they are accidentally destroyed by an outsider?" Mo Lien harumphed. "My wife is an earth-grade alchemist. She didn't expect to be so busy today and was asked to work overtime." Chapter 32-36. That's right. Don't be arrogant and complacent just because of a little achievement. In our divine continent, mid-level alchemists are everywhere, and even high-level alchemists aren't few. Don't think that just because you can provide a bloodshed vermilion fruit, you've already entered the ranks of alchemists. The path of alchemy is broad and profound, There are many things to learn. Wait a minute. Emol Yoshing's voice paused slightly, and he suddenly glanced sideways at his son, raising his voice slightly. What did you just say? Emol Yen rolled her eyes in annoyance. I said my wife is an earth level pill master. Now you heard it clearly, right? Emol Yen glanced at her father with a smile that wasn't a smile. This guy's mind was wandering, and he didn't even hear it clearly, yet he was admonishing them with certainty. Emol Yoshing's expression at this time was very surprised. Sure enough, he seemed to come back to his senses all of a sudden, staring at Arbor with wide eyes for a while before saying, You know how to make earth-level pills? Arbor glanced at him and nodded. Sort of. Now, she could sometimes produce heaven-level pills with a small probability, and last time, she even produced a black-veined earth-level pill. Her alchemist realm seemed to be developing in the direction of higher quality. Emol Yoshing's gaze was somewhat complicated, and he looked at her deeply. He wouldn't have noticed if he didn't look, but with this look, Emol Yoshing couldn't help but frown slightly, and he said with some surprise, You? Did your cultivation level increase again? Arbor threw him a you just realized look, nodded calmly, and said in a calm tone, It's just so. Now I can barely be considered a beginner level 13 level great spiritualist. The Emperor actually felt somewhat speechless, and his gaze seemed to be looking at an otherworldly weirdo, staring blankly at Arbor for a good while. Why did he look like an idiot? Arbor's little eyes glanced at the Emperor, and she couldn't help but say, Although my realm didn't increase much, my divine sense increased a lot. Now it's already a 4th level divine sense. Emol Yoshing. Why did he keep feeling stifled? And what the hell was with this inexplicable huge blow? This advancement was due to the fact that the Sun-Moon Mystery Realm had fused into her galaxy. Even the little tree had benefited greatly. Previously, after the Sun-Moon Mystery Realm had fused into the star field, all kinds of things had happened one after another. She hadn't had enough time to flee for her life, so naturally, there hadn't been time for her to go into seclusion to advance. She suppressed her realm and waited until she returned to the academy before she calmed down and advanced a level. Now, her cultivation had successfully stepped into the realm of level 13 Great Spiritual Master. As for the little tree, it had already entered the realm of middle growth stage. Seeing the Emperor's shocked expression, the little stoic pursed her small lips. What was there to be surprised about? Before you went to the Royal Academy, you were only a level 10 Great Spirit Master. Emol Yoshing restrained himself, but in the end, he still couldn't help but open his mouth. At that time, she had removed the aura concealing talisman in the study room. He had seen it with his own eyes, hadn't he? But now, it had only been a little over a month, and this little guy had actually leaped into the realm of a 13th rank Great Spirit Master in one go. Moreover, with Emol Yoshing's eyesight, he could naturally tell that this little brat's cultivation did not seem to be fake. It was extremely stable. This little guy was really quite amazing. Emol Yoshing glanced at the little girl again, inwardly thinking this kind of talent is completely not inferior to the Pangu clan's Princess Jing. Chapter 32-37. Cough. The Emperor suddenly felt that his expression was a bit like an idiot's, so he quickly adjusted his expression and put on a solemn face. You've improved a lot recently, but you have to maintain it. That's right, since you're an Earth-grade alchemist, then have you gone to the pill house to test your grade? I haven't. The little stoic recalled Fairy Huang He's words and couldn't help but sigh ruefully. She heard that with the alchemist certification issued by the pill house, you could get a discount at any medicinal herb shop in the 3 provinces. Hence, the Emperor fumed and glared. You haven't even tested it, so how can you boast that you're an Earth-grade alchemist? This Earth-grade alchemist title wasn't a boast. Someone who can steadily refine 100 Earth-grade pills in one go isn't an Earth-grade alchemist? The Emperor twitched his mouth and nodded indifferently. Then don't be arrogant and continue to work hard. There are plenty of young alchemists who are better than you in this world. When Prince Emo heard this, he was immediately unconvinced. Which girl of the same age in this world can be better than my Jojo? Emol Yoshing glared at his son. There's always someone better. There's still a 28-year-old divine alchemist in this world. When Mo Lushing mentioned this person, he couldn't help but sigh ruefully. Unfortunately, this expert's whereabouts are erratic. It's very difficult to find her. Can your wife reach the divine alchemist realm when she's 28? The emperor shook his head and couldn't help but sigh. It'd be great if she could become a divine alchemist. Emolian was unhappy when he heard this. His little wife was clearly more outstanding than anyone else. So why did she seem so unsightly in his father's mouth? He simply didn't know what was good for him. Emolian was just about to rebuke his father when Arbor grabbed him. In truth, there were many things that didn't need to be argued with. When her strength reached that level, that would be the best way to slap their faces. In any case, it wasn't the emperor's first time being slapped in the face, so he didn't mind the pain. Arbor pursed her lips, indicating for Prince Mo to pay attention to the emperor's current expression. Her hopeful expression softened his chiseled, handsome face. You're looking for that divine-grade alchemist? Mo Yin raised her eyebrows. A 28-year-old divine-grade alchemist was indeed quite outstanding, but Mo Yin believed that his little wife would definitely be able to reach the realm of a divine-grade alchemist in less than 10 years. Have you heard of the soul-returning pill? The emperor suddenly asked, his gaze landing on the little stoic. The little crown princess glanced at him. A saint-grade pill that reverses yin and yang. To make them, you need divine phoenix wood, Sangzhou snowfield flower, and underworld remote ghost grass. Also, add a saint-grade spirit fruit, the bloodshed vermilion fruit. Mo Lushing nodded his head excitedly. Speaking of the bloodshed vermilion fruit, she had casually taken one out and given it to him when he was testing the young crown princess. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't excited at that time, but the great emperor was used to pretending. Even if he was overwhelmed with emotions, no one would be able to tell. Do you know how to make it? Mo Yoshing's eyes were faintly suppressed with anticipation. Only a saint-grade alchemist can make this pill, the little stoic said indifferently. Although a divine-grade alchemist can also make it, the success rate is extremely low. It wasn't easy to gather the materials for rare treasures like divine phoenix wood, remote ghost grass, and snowfield divine flower. How could a person with a low success rate carelessly make a pill like this? Chapter 32-38. Mo Lu Shang's expression changed slightly, and after a long silence, he asked, how low is the success rate of a god-grade pill refiner? About 10%. Arbor said indifferently. The moment she said that, Mo Lu Shang's expression turned even uglier. He let out a long sigh, as if he had been hit so hard that he seemed to have lost his soul. Arbor glanced at him. You can wait for that talented god-grade pill refiner to advance to a saint-grade pill refiner, and then give her the ingredients to refine. In this way, even if there's a possibility of failure, the success rate can be more than 60%. Mo Lu Shang glanced at her, moved his lips, and finally sighed faintly. Mo Yin held her little hand. In the past 1,000 years, there hasn't been a saint-grade pill refiner in the divine continent. Wait until when? This god-grade pill refiner might not be able to advance to a saint-grade pill refiner in her lifetime. Arbor raised her delicate brows and glanced at the emperor, who had a hint of melancholy in his eyes. Then wait for me, she suddenly said. When I grow up, I'll help Lian's mother refine the soul-returning pill. 5 years is enough. Mo Lu Sheng looked at her, as if he was looking at a weirdo for a long time, then silently got up, turned his head, and shouted at Hu Dequan, who was standing at the side like a statue. What are you standing there for? Take the sacred rice and return to the palace. Prince Mo twitched his mouth and hurriedly said, the entry and exit token for the herb garden. A bolt of lightning flashed before his eyes, and Mo Yin reached out to grab that herb garden token and stuffed it into his little wife's hands. Arbor glanced at the emperor's back as he left in a huff, blinked, and asked, what's wrong with him? Just now he left halfway. Lord Jojo tilted her head in thought and asked her husband with a serious face, does your father not believe me? She said that she could become a saint-grade pill refiner in 5 years, and it wasn't a joke. She was someone who had 12 times the flow of time, and saying 5 years was to take care of the emperor's mood, and purposely said long. She didn't expect that when she said 5 years, he didn't believe her. What an inexplicable person. Yin looked at his wife's conflicted expression and almost laughed out loud. He nodded and said, "It's okay. We'll use the truth to slap him in the face in 2 years." Jojo thought about it and nodded. Then he walked to his side and reached out to touch his face. "Don't be sad. I will cure your mother." Yin's eyes flickered and seemed to overflow with tenderness. She reached out to hold the little fellow's waist and kissed her gently on the cheek. "I know. When your old man is happy, bring me over to have a look," Lady Chow Chow said expressionlessly. "All right. Don't worry. A small soul-returning pill won't be a problem for your master Jojo," the little fellow said with a serious look on his serious face. Yin picked her up and said with a smile, I know everything." There were many things that didn't need to be said. Everything was in tacit agreement. Jojo rubbed her little head against his face. "Come back early tomorrow afternoon. I want to eat sweet osmanthus and lotus root. You can make it." Yin smiled and nodded. "Wife, if there's anything else you want to eat, just tell your husband." Your Highness. Hurried footsteps came from outside. Chapter 32-39. Eunuch Chen ran in with small steps and bowed while panting. "Your Highness, something happened at Yongren Palace." Yongren Palace was the Empress Dowager's bedchamber. What could happen? Yin subconsciously raised his brows. Eunuch Chen continued, "His Majesty invites your Highness over." Yin was a little unhappy. So many things happened as soon as he returned to the palace. Why did he look for him, the Crown Prince, when something happened at Yongren Palace? He wasn't familiar with the old lady, so he didn't know why his father called him over. However, Arbor tugged at his sleeve and said, "You go, I'm going to bathe first." Yin's eyes brightened slightly. Actually, he would rather stay at home and help Sir Jojo bathe. Prince Imo reluctantly went to Yongren Palace, while Arbor went to the hot spring to take a bath. In the corner of the Eastern Palace's back garden, there was a naturally formed hot spring. The water was clear all year round, and the air was dense with moisture. Arbor took a liking to this place not long after he returned. This treasured place became a place where Sir Jojo frequented. Because the little crown princess often needed to bathe here, the crown prince had people renovate the hot spring and build it into a bath. Recently, the servants cleaned the hot spring very diligently, afraid that they would neglect the little crown princess and incur His Highness's displeasure. Bored to death, Sir Jojo sprawled on the edge of the hot spring, holding a cup of spirit tea and sipping it absent-mindedly. Due to the integration of the Sun-Moon Mystery Realm, Cho-Chio had also advanced. Recently, she was busy stabilizing her realm, so she didn't hear this fellow's chatter. After returning to the capital, she didn't have time to visit her business, so Arbor planned to take a look tomorrow afternoon. When she heard the Emperor say that the holy rice was auctioned for a sky-high price of 180,000 taels, she couldn't help but feel a little curious. Could it be that the business model of valuing things based on their rarity really worked? After soaking for a while, Jojo climbed out of the water. He wiped himself clean and put on a soft shirt. "Crown Princess." Kai Chi hurried over and bowed. "His Majesty has sent another decree for you to make a trip to Yongren Palace." Xiao Mu creased her brows. This old lady was a little too much. She had nothing to do with her at all, so why did she have to drag her over? After letting Saishio and Saichi do a simple makeup for her, Lady Jojo changed into her red battle clothes and got on the carriage with a cold expression on her little stoic face. The eunuchs and palace maids accompanying her all had tense faces. They felt that the little crown princess was in a bad mood. At this moment, the atmosphere in Yongren Palace was a little strange. Everyone was in the open space in front of the Empress Dowager's bedchamber, looking nervously at a eunuch with disheveled hair in the middle. That eunuch was around 30 years old. At this time, he was in a delirious state and was being propped up by 4 or 5 guards. He shook his head and roared like a madman. Empress Dowager Chen's face was a bit pale. She grabbed the arm of an old nanny and looked nervously at that eunuch. The emperor's expression was also very unsightly. He turned to look at the imperial physicians huddled at the side. Have you checked everyone in Yomran Palace? Is there anyone else with the same symptoms? Those imperial physicians were already scared half to death. When they heard this, they hurriedly said, "We've only checked half of the people. There's nothing strange." Then what are we still doing here? Why don't we check the other half? Are we waiting for their symptoms to act up? Mo Lushing shouted. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.